theyeshiva.net.
Okay, we're up to Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. On the bottom, mamash on the bottom. 4 lines from the bottom. Amar Rabbi Yosef. Mamash 4 lines from the bottom. Yud Gimel Amud Aleph and Pesachim. The Gemarah told a story, a very interesting story, that somebody deposited a saddlebag filled with chametz to a man named Yochanan Chakukah, and mice came and perforated, right, made holes in the bag, and the chametz started to get depleted from the bag, I guess because of the holes. And he came to Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, and he asked him what to do with the deposit. Thank you. So Rabbi said, wait. He came to him at 6, wait, 7, wait, 8, wait, 9, wait. Why? The man gave you a deposit. You can't do anything with it. He'll come and hopefully take it, and he'll eat it. Then came the 5th hour. The 5th hour would mean 10 o'clock. And that's when Rabbi said, go and sell it. Go and sell it. Why go and sell it? So as the Gemarah explained, that Rabbi meant go sell it to a Gentile because you can't eat it anymore. Nor can you sell it to a Jew, because no Jew is going to buy chametz on the 5th hour because there's nothing for him to do with it. All he can do is sell it to a Gentile, so why should he buy it just to sell it? If he can eat it, he could buy it to eat it because he wants some food for him, for his wife, for his children, for his family members, anybody. But since it's the 5th hour, he can't eat it. So Rebbe said, go sell it. What he meant was go sell it to a non-Jew. Because in the 5th hour, you could still have anah from chametz. In the 6th hour, you can't. You have to burn it midirabbanan. 7th hour, even min ha-Torah. But the 6th hour, midirabbanan, you can't have anah. But the 5th hour, you could still sell it. So Rebbe said, go sell it. To do the guy a favor. Because if you don't sell it, right, he may come now and sell it, but he may not come. And the beginning of the 6th hour is going to come. It's already 10 o'clock. 11 o'clock is going to come. And what's going to happen? His whole chametz is going to be kaput. He won't be able to eat it. He won't be able to have enough from it. It's going to be chametz shavar lava pesach. It has to be destroyed, and there's nothing to do with it. At least save him a little bit. Sell it to a guy 10 o'clock. Whatever you'll get, even if you're not going to get cost price, but you'll get something, and you'll give the guy a little money. But till then, Rebbe did not let him sell it. Why? It's not yours to sell. You gave me a pekudei. You didn't turn me into a partner. It's not me to sell. It's not mine to sell. There are achbarim, there are mice. Okay, there are mice, but I'm not allowed to sell it. And because I'm not allowed to sell it, Rabbi said, just wait. In the 5th hour now, if I wait, it's going to cost the person a great loss, so Rabbi allowed him to sell it. And that's what the Gemarah concluded. And from here, we also proved that Rabbi held, like Rabbi Yehuda, that you can only eat chametz till the end of the 4 hours, because in the 5th hour, you can't eat chametz anymore. And that's why Rabbi said, go sell it to a guy. He said, go sell it. And we explained it, that it means to a guy, because to a Jew, it's not going to work. And even though Rabbi Yosef challenged that, but as Rabbi Adar told Rabbi Yosef that he himself at an earlier stage said that Rabbi meant to a non-Jew and not to a Jew, and therefore this story supports the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. So that's why we have before Rav said, Reb Nachman said in the name of Rav, halacha Rabbi Yehuda, here we also have a support from Rabbi that halacha is like Reb Yehuda. I want to tell you an interesting story that I saw is brought in the Yalkut Biyurim in the Mesifta Gemarah in Shal Shuvas Shvus Yaakov. Shal Shuvas Shvus Yaakov Chelik Aleph Siman Yates. He tells a story. A Maisa with a person who deposited a Teva Zgura, a closed chest, a box by his friend, as a pekudei, and he gave it to him. The shomer, the custodian, didn't know what's inside because it was a sealed chest. But he took it, but with one condition. The condition was, I'm not liable and taking achrayas. In other words, there's different types of shomrim, right? There's a shomer sachar, there's a soicher, there's a shoyel. He wanted to be the lowest level of shmira, meaning, I'm going to guard it, I'm not going to be negligent, I'm not going to put it outside, I'm going to lock the door at night, what we call a shomer china. But it means I'm not taking achrayas. Achrayas means if it gets lost, if it gets stolen, obviously if it's a natural disaster, for sure not, but even if it gets stolen, I can't say, oh, why didn't you put it in a safe? Why didn't you make another lock? Why didn't you hire guards? I'm not taking achrayas for it. You're trusting me that I'm going to be a decent shomer, but that's it. That was the condition. It came Pesach, and the man did not come to pick it up. The shomer didn't know what's inside, and he thought maybe there's chametz. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what the guy gave him. It was locked, it was sealed, but maybe there's chametz.
What if it is chametz? Is he liable, or is he was worried about the Jew, or he was worried about himself?
Let's say about the Jew. Okay. So he takes the chest and he puts it in the room with his other chametz, and he sells it to a non-Jew. He puts it together with his own chametz, let's say with his pantry of mashke or frozen chametz. It wasn't frozen then, but with his chametz, and he sells it all to a non-Jew. This was a real sale to a non-Jew. What do I mean by a real sale? A real sale means there was a real non-Jew who got the key to the house and who actually bought the chametz. So what happened? The guy came and he took the chest. He sold it to him, he took it. The guy comes back, where's my chest? He says, I'm not allowed to have chametz in my house. For your sake and for my sake, you're not allowed to have another Jew's chametz in your house, according to most poskim. A non-Jew that you don't take achrayas, you're allowed to have. A Jewish chametz in your house, many poskim say you're not allowed to have. Push it for me and also for you. It's your chametz. I didn't know what's there. So they came to the Shvus Yaakov and they asked the question, does the shomer have to pay for what the guy says was in his chest or not? He said it was something expensive, nothing to do with chametz. He said, how am I supposed to know? There was no telephone, there was no WhatsApp. I thought this may be chametz. I had a suffix. I was trying to save you and save myself. I sold it to the guy. I did the right thing. He says, who asked you to do it? You weren't allowed to do it. I was never makabel achrayas. He says, yeah, but you were a posheya. So I wasn't a posheya. That's what you have to do before Pesach. I want you to pay me. He says, but I said I'm not taking responsibility. Not taking responsibility means if you're not negligent, but you were negligent. What was the negligence? You sold it to a guy. You gave it away. He said, I had to sell it to a guy. It was a chash chametz, a suffix chametz. You never told me what it is. Interesting question. They came to the Shvus Yaakov and they asked him, what's the halacha? Okay. Maybe he doesn't have the power. Maybe he doesn't have the power. He did. Maybe, this is what happened, and the guy took it. Or ruined it, or tried to take it, whatever. It got lost. It got damaged, it got lost. He doesn't even say what it was.
Because if it was chametz, he did him a favor.
Exactly. Apparently it wasn't chametz. He didn't know what it was.
It wasn't chametz, probably. No.
It was locked.
Yeah.
No, that's why he was upset. It wasn't chametz.
So the Shvus Yaakov thought, where do you figure it out? And he said it's a beferish Gemarah in our sugya. He says this story of Yochanan, Chakakar, and Rabbi, that's the story. Why? So he said as follows. He said, take a look, what happened in our sugya? It says that he had a bag with chametz, and mice came and perforated it. They made holes. V'hoya chametz mevatzpeitz v'yoytze. Mevatzpeitz means the chametz was dripping out, seeping out, licking out. It was falling out. Mevatzpeitz v'yoytze. Meaning it was getting lost, and it was Erev Pesach. Why is that detail important? He comes to Rabbi. Rabbi says, wait. First hour, second hour, third hour, fourth hour. Fifth hour, 10 o'clock, go sell. Isn't the same question any bag with chametz? Forget mice. Let's say there were no mice. Let's say it was a perfect bag with chametz. What am I supposed to do with it? You give me a bag with chametz, a bag with pasta. What am I supposed to do with it? And I would come to Rabbi. I'm supposed to sell it? It's your chametz. Why should I sell it? The fifth hour, Rabbi might have told me, listen, there's pasta here, sell it to a guy and give him the money. Because if not, it's going to get burnt, right? But the Gemara adds this whole detail about mice coming. Which, why is that negated to the story? So the Shvus Yaakov said as follows. This point in the story, even if it happens, seems superfluous. Why couldn't the same story happen without mice? Forget mice. I have a bag filled with chametz. What should I do with it? It's Erev Pesach. It's yours. What am I supposed to do? If you would come to Rabbi, you would say, wait. The guy will come and eat it. What do you have to? It's a Pekudei. It's his chametz. The fifth hour, it's already deadline. The guy is not coming, right? If you wait a little longer, it's going to become Asur Ba'achila and Asur Ba'hana. It's already Asur Ba'achila. It's going to be Asur Ba'hana. Sell it. At least you'll make $50 and you'll give it to him. So he won't go completely empty-handed. He gave you a pekudei of $100. At least you'll reclaim $50, and you'll give him the money. He'll have something. If not, he's going to end up with zero. Grant. Of course. Yeah, it says it was. This wasn't a secret. As to Shvus Yaakov, what's negeya? So you'll say, well, that's how the story happened. The fact that that's how the story happened, the fact that the Gemarah mentions it in the story, means that somehow it's negeya to the story. Why is that so negeya to the story that there's mice? So he says the pshat is as follows. Very good. He says, l'maynaf kamina, the same psak, who cares if there's mice or not? Let's say there's no mice, it's not getting lost. What's the difference? Then you could sell it. So he says the pshat is, the Gemarah wants to say, chametz mevatzpitz v'yoytze. Because it was chametz mevatzpitz v'yoytze, so he knew for sure that there was chametz there. Because he knew for sure that there was chametz there, he's mechuyev to sell it. What happens if there were no holes, and it was a closed sack, and the chametz was not mevatzpitz v'yoytze? Then he wasn't mechuyev to be chayshish, maybe there's chametz, and therefore he would be forbidden to sell it to a non-Jew, because by selling it to a non-Jew, it's called a posheya. You're taking something that it's not yours, and you're being negligent with it, and therefore he says that the guy has to pay him back.
Because he doesn't know that.
Yeah, that's why the Gemarah puts in mevatzpitz v'yoytze. Why is that negeya? As I think it's, yeah, no, could be he did. Could be he did it with good intentions, but he's still a posheya. Posheya doesn't mean he's a bad guy. Yeah, but here he said the truth. He wasn't denying it. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So he's responsible not only
for all the results.
all the results.
Yeah.
So does he say whether he made him pay?
Yeah, he made him pay. He had to pay.
And it was
We don't know. It doesn't say what it is. I don't know. If it was a diamond, I don't know what it was. A diamond.
the amount he paid was probably greater than the value of the box.
I guess so. I don't know.
Because then you could take on the
You're saying why didn't you just break open the box?
that would have been a shorter cut.
It would have been shorter, but he probably didn't realize that the guy is gonna ruin it.
Yeah, but I'm asking, when he went to the Shvus Yaakov, who was the Shvus Yaakov again?
Oh, prove what it was. How did he prove what it was?
Prove up.
How did he prove what it was?
He wasn't based in before he put the chest there.
No, no,
I guess he could prove. I don't know.
He brings him to Beis Din. He
Right.
says, "Pay me."
Maybe it was there and it was broken. Whatever. I guess yeah, you're right. He had to ascertain that it was there.
That was my question.
Yes. I don't know the answer. It's interesting. The only ha'ara I want to say is that one of the Rishonim, the Maram Chalva, Rabbeinu Moshe of Chalva, one of the Rishonim on the Gemarah Pesachim, so he says a different reason why the Gemarah emphasizes that mice perforated the bag. And he says what was happening is that they were eating the chametz. The chametz was falling out, so if the chametz was falling out, put it back. The problem is not only the chametz was falling out, mevatzpitz v'yoytze means it was falling out, and they were eating it. They opened the bag and it was falling out, so now the achbarim were making a party out of it. So therefore, that's what the Gemarah means, that even though the mice are eating it, so that means the longer you delay selling it, in 3 hours, you're going to be left with very little. So you would think that Rabbi would say, go sell it for that reason. Not mitzad the chametz. Mitzad, the guy is losing his food. So that's the chiddush of Rabbi, that you still should not touch it. And the reason you should not touch it is because the guy may still come and want his food, and therefore you don't have to do anything with it until the 5th hour when it's going to be completely destroyed. Not just the mice eating part of it, but it's going to be completely destroyed. That's what he ties. In other words, if it was stam a bag of chametz, it wouldn't be a chiddush of Rabbi. The chiddush of Rabbi was that it's not stam a bag of chametz. Every hour that it gets delayed, I'm going to have less to sell, or you're going to have less to eat. So even if you do come, you may be happy that I sell it now. You know why? Because you're going to get maybe more, because you're going to, I don't know how much achbarim I'm going to have. They're not going to take the whole thing, but they're going to take part of it. Still, Rabbi was saying, not. That's how the Maram Chalva teaches. There's no hechrech to this vart, that the reason the Gemarah says this is that he knew that it was chametz. The chiddush of achbarim is a whole different chiddush, that even though it's being depleted, still you're not allowed to sell it. So I just wanted to make that harder.
According to Rabbi, do you have an acquired? It seems like you have an acquired to save another Jew's moment.
Yes, you have an achrayas. The only thing is, you have to understand if from the Gemarah that we're going to learn now, maybe there's a shtickle on the Maram Chalva. I just want to point that out. That's his mahalach in the Gemarah. But we're now going to see the sugya continues, and it could be that's why the Shvus Yaakov didn't want to learn that way. We'll see in a moment. Of course. Zog the Gemarah, Amar Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef is just mayor on Rabbi. Kaman Nazla Hashmaita de Rabbi. When Rabbi says you're allowed to sell a Pekudei, now that's a chiddush that you're allowed to sell a Pekudei because it's not mine. In other words, I could say it's not my tzara that you didn't show up. It's chametz, Erev Pesach, the 6th hour, we're going to burn it. I should go sell something that doesn't belong to me without permission? That's a gevaldik chiddush. It's a big chiddush in halacha. I'm taking your property that I do not own. I'm just a custodian and I'm actually selling it without your consent. Why? Because I want to protect you. That's a very interesting chiddush legally. I could sell your property because I want to protect you, not for selfish reasons. So he says, where did Rebbe get this yisoid? It follows Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. The Tanan, the Mishnah says, Hamavkid Peiros Eitzel Chavere, Baba Metzia Lamed Ches. Somebody deposits fruits by his friend. Afilu hein avudin, even if there is mold or decadence, and what happens is it's getting lost, it's getting depleted. Lo yiga behen, do not touch them. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel loimer moichrem bebezdin. Sell them under the authority of Bezdin, so they should make sure that you get the right value because it's not your own loss, it's somebody else's loss. Mipnei hashavas aveda. This is actually hashavas aveda. It's called returning a lost item. Because since the mold or the mice are causing it to be depleted, so when the guy comes back, you're going to give him less than he gave you. So mitzvah hashavas aveda, to give him back something that's getting lost to the mice, sell it now, and you'll give him the money. That's Reb Shimon ben Gamliel's chiddush. L'cha'oire, Rebbe followed that shitta. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, I'm allowed to sell something that's not mine. For Hashavas Aveda, here too. For Hashavas Aveda, this chametz is going to be lost completely within an hour. Go sell it, and you'll give back the Aveda in the form of money. Amalei Abaye. Abaye said, no, wrong. V'lav itmar Allah, did we not learn on that Mishnah? Amar Rabbi Bachanam Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi the son of Barchana said named Rabbi Yochanan, Loi Shanu. The argument between the Chachamim and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Tanakam and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is Elam Bichdei Chesroinon. Only if the fruits are being depleted according to the ordinary routine of depletion. There was basically something to be expected. If you put fruits here for a month, the Gemarah goes through the cheshbon. If you put for a month, for 6 months, for a year, this is what you should expect to find based on the natural circumstances of decadence, of becoming rotten, of mice, etc. If you see that there is a hastened process, it's really getting depleted much more than regular, then moichron bebezdin, everybody would say to sell it. In other words, if it's something to be expected, you could say, since this is to be expected, so this is what he expected, why are you selling it? He wanted to give you a pikadon. Yeah, the famous expression of the Gemarah, Adam roitze bekav shalo yoyser mitisha kabim shel chavere. A person appreciates 1 kav of grain that he worked for, more than 9 kabim that somebody else worked for. So even if he's going to get less, and with the money he's going to get more, Tanakama says a person wants, these are his fruits, it's his grain, it's something that you worked for, something that you work for, even if it's a little bit, is much more precious than a lot that you didn't work for. We all know, somebody generates their own revenue, right? So even if it's a little bit, it has a certain value to it, that if you get a gift that doesn't really belong to you, it doesn't have the same value. So as a result of that, Tanakama says, the person expected this, and it's fine. Where Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says you could still sell it mitzvah Hashavas Aveda, but if it's really getting depleted in a fast way, irregularly, then everyone holds Meichrim Bebezdin. If this is true, if so, everybody would agree here that you sell it. Why? Because it's psidi legamri. It's not just the mice are really eating it up and you're going to get much less than expected. Here, you're going to end up with null, with zero. Psidi legamri. It's getting completely ruined. As Rashi says, Sheneh Sorim Bahanoah. Not only you're not going to have anything to eat, you're not even have anything to feed your animals or to give as a gift or to sell. It's becoming asim mano, it's chametz. The beginning of the 6th hour it becomes Asr Ba'nam Rabbanan. The beginning of the 7th hour Asr Ba'nam Torah. And therefore even Tanakama would agree that here you could sell the chametz. And therefore you shouldn't associate it after with the shit of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Because even Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, the side of Shimon ben Gamliel, and side Tanakama would hold that this is different. You should sell. Why? Because it's psidi legamri, because it's completely being ruined. But that's only when it became the 5th hour. Till the 5th hour, Rabbi said that what? You should not eat it. And this stam is maybe a ha'aram, what the Maram Chalva says, because he said that the fact that the mice were eating it, right? Rabbi should have said that you sell it, but Rabbi didn't say you sell it. But l'chayra, the fact that you were comparing him to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, and Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says that when mice are eating it, you could sell it. Rabbi should have said to sell it earlier. It's not an interesting hara. Shvus Yaakov Taka learns that it's just a whole different idea. The whole idea is that you should know that it's chametz. It's not that the achbarim are eating it. Because then, l'chayr, if you're comparing him to the Shimon ben Gamliel, you should sell it earlier. Unless you say, like the maskana, is taka going to the chachamim. And since it's a normal thing that there's mice, so maybe Rabbi said, you're not allowed to sell it, only later. But al kabonim, like the Shvus Yaakov, it's very clear that it didn't have to do with that. It's not that the mice were eating it up. It's that the mice allowed you to see what's inside. That's the ikar. So that may be a raya to the Shvus Yaakov, that's the Nekud in the Gemarah, and that's why he said that the Shomer is not mechuyev to sell it if he doesn't know that there's chametz inside. He just has a suffix.
I wonder if in the time of the Shvus Yaakov they already were selling to Goyim and then buying it back.
The Shvus Yaakov, I said, lived in the 1600s, right? The concept of commercial sales to a guy started right before that, started in the late 1500s and early 1600s. So at that time, it wasn't like today, that everybody just sold it formally to a non-Jew. In those days, there was still a lot of the real individuals selling to a non-Jew. You know, you went to your neighbor and you said, here, take the chametz and it's yours. Yeah. The concept started then because in Poland, Jews owned inns, motels, krechmas, with bars, with a lot of vodka. So they used to sell it before Pesach, but it just became impossible because the Goyim would wait till Erev Pesach, and they knew that the Jews are desperate, and they can get all the mashka and all the vodka for a very cheap price, so there became a crisis. So the Rabbanim of the time, in the 1500s and 1600s in Poland, came up with the idea of Mechiras Chametz the way we do it.
Individual people never really had anything left.
Individual people, it wasn't a big thing, because what did you have in your kitchen?
They didn't have to.
You had a shtickle challah, yeah? What did you have? The concept of today with grocery stores and surplus and storages and, you know, and freezers and all that, it didn't exist. You cleaned up your chametz and it was did. And if you needed, you sold it to a guy. That's why in Gemarah, I mean, we'll have in a later Mishnah, Moichel and you could sell it to a guy, but it wasn't a big thing. In the Middle Ages, when Jews for Parnasa started to own bars, right, krechmas, inns with bars, which didn't exist in the time of Shas, they became a big issue now. Because now you have huge quantities of chametz, so you can't drink them all up before Pesach, and you could sell them all before Pesach, but once the Gentiles realized, it became a disaster. People were losing huge fortunes of money. So that's when they came up with the idea of everybody doing Mechiras Chametz.
So basically before then.
No, they had vodka distilleries, but a person owning, so you had to clean it up. I'm saying a person owning a barn, he had hundreds of bottles. What is he supposed to do? He could burn it all, but it was just a huge loss of money.
And the wholesaler that had inventory 2,000 years ago, what did he do?
So he figured it out, but it wasn't a common thing of many, many people. And our generation, of course, it expands to the fact that we have big homes and a lot of food. So that's another issue, right? With pantries filled with chametz. You can also burn it, but... So that's when Mechiras Chametz became a very big issue, because they had to do Mechiras Chametz. How do you do it? So that's when they started to develop it. So then it's your own loss. Sometimes if you keep the Aveda, you're going to lose money. But here we're not talking about that. This is...
Sell the animal
because...
without permission.
Right, because you don't want to lose money, but here you're not losing money. It's chametz. It's not an animal. You're not losing anything. Zog the Gemarah, Rabbi Yehuda, the Mishnah continued and told us a fascinating story that Rabbi Yehuda also taught us that there were. Rabbi Yehuda said in the Mishnah on Daf Yud Aleph Beis that they had two chalas of Todah. Two chalas of Todah that they used to place in the harabayas on a bench, so people would know what time it is. Basically, one of the karbanos that people would bring to the Beis Hamikdash was a carbon todah. Carbon todah is a carbon of thanks, gratitude. If your life was saved from a dangerous situation, from an illness, or you went through the ocean, the sea, you traveled through the sea, or through a desert, or a prison, and you came out. What we do today with Hagoimel, Birchas Hagoimel. Person was very ill, and they became healthy, and they brought a carbon todah. The carbon todah comes with 40 pieces of bread. The 40 pieces of bread, 30 of them are matzah, are made in a matzah style, and 10 of them are made chametz, carbon todah. So they used to take 2 of those breads of the todah. As the Mishnah said, Rabbi Yehuda said, they were psulos, they were invalid to eat, as we will see, and they would place it on a bench on the harabayas. As long as they were both there, everybody knew you can eat. When they took one away, they knew that it's the beginning of the 5th hour, and you can't eat chametz anymore, but you could still sell your chametz, or benefit from your chametz in another way, because there was only one challah left. And then when they took both challahs away, they took the second one also, they knew now it's the beginning of the 6th hour and it's time to burn your chametz. This was a public sign that they used to do for everybody to know. Again, since there were no clocks and you have to look at the sun to figure it out, and not everybody knew the right time, so they gave this public simon, and the Yerushalayim was filled with Jews, and everybody was near, many people were near the harabayas, they were preparing for the carbon pesach and all the other stuff. So therefore, on top of the harabayas, on this bench, they had this sign, 2 chalas todah. They took 1 away, you stop eating chametz. They took 2 away, you start burning chametz.
Flag would have been a little more effective.
Uh-huh.
On the bench,
How did they communicate it to people who were further away?
They didn't. You had to ask yourself. But this was just a public service. And then rumor had it. If I was at the harabayas, right, or a friend was at the harabayas, you go to your neighbor and you say, what's going on? And he says, they took away 1 chal. You know, I guess rumor spread, and probably people tweeted it also, or sent it a WhatsApp, and as a result of that, it got around. For Oidam Rabbi Yehuda shtei chalos, sagt the Gemarah, Tani Tana kamed Rabbi Yehuda. A Tana, here a Tana doesn't mean a Tana from the Tanaim, it means somebody who taught, somebody who knew the Mishnayos and would teach it. So he was teaching the Mishnah in front of Rav Yehuda, and he was quoting Rabbi Yehuda. This is Rabbi Yehuda the Tana, but he's teaching it to Rav Yehuda the Amayr. And he says that the 2 chalas were al gav ha'itzdava. Itzdava means a bench. Basically, when they had benches, people would sit on it, was called an itzdava, like a chair made of stone. Amalei, Rabbi Yehuda says to this Tana, to this person reading the Mishnah, V'chilat tzniyan hu tzarech. The point was to hide these chalas. Why is he putting it on a bench? Who's going to help? Who's going to be helped by it? Tani, the way they have to explain the Mishnah is al gava itzdava, al gaga itzdava, not al gav. Not on top of the bench, but on the roof of the chair. Meaning, on top of the chairs, they had a cover to protect them from rain. On the roof of that, they put the chalas, so it would be on display, so everybody would be able to see it, because we don't want to hide the chalas, we want to display the chalas in a visible way. Amar Rachva, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rachva said, in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, and it's interesting, Tosfos says here, L'fi shoyer Rabbi Muvik Karilei Rebbe. 2 lines ago, we called him Rav Yehuda. Suddenly he became Rabbi Yehuda. How does that work? So he says, really, it was Rav Yehuda, because he was an Amayr in Bavel, not a Tanas. They used to call him Rav, not Rebbe. The Tanoim they called Rebbe, and the Amayroim in Eretz Yisrael they called Rebbe, but the Amayroim in Bavel they called Rav. But because Rachba's Rebbe, his personal, permanent, and most important Rebbe was Rebbe Yehuda, so therefore he called him personally Rabbi Yehuda, my teacher, my Rebbe, my master. So he said in the name of his teacher, Har Habayis, the temple mound, the mountain on which the Beis Hamikdash existed, was Stav Kafel Haya. It was built with a double row of benches, like in a stadium, like in a theater, in a lecture hall. They have a row of benches in a circle, and inside there was another row of benches. Stav is a row of benches or chairs made out of stone. Stav Kafel Haya. It's circled around and around the harabayas, 2 rows, one inside the other. Tanya Nami Hachi. We also have a Parshas supporting this. Harabayas Stav Kafel Haya. The harabayas was built with chairs, rows of chairs in a circle, double rows. So that's way people could come and sit. And as we saw before, there was a roof on top of it to protect them from cold or rain or stormy weathers when they came to Yerushalayim. So basically, people came to the harabayas, and they could sit, they could relax, they could sit, they could shmooze, they could take a rest, whatever it was. And on one of those itztavas on the roof, they put the 2 chalas for everybody to see. Huh? The two chalas, why wouldn't the birds eat it? And if the birds took a little bite, Mela,
There should probably would be a lot of birds.
you're saying all the birds would come to the chalas Todah.
It's happened.
They put it out in the morning. They put it out in the morning, 6, 7, 8, whenever, in the morning, early morning. And then they took one away at 10 o'clock. If sunrise, what's this? They took one away at 10, and they took the second one away at 11. So you looked, you saw 2 chalas, you knew you can eat. They took away 1 chala, you have to stop eating. They took away 2 chalas, you have to start burning. Tanya nami hachi harbai stav kafaloi. Rabbi Yehuda says, istivonis hoisa nekras, stav lefnim istav. It was called istivonis. Istivonis. What does he say in istivonis? A row of benches, and it was called istivonis, which is stav lefnim istav, 1 row inside another row.
Storefront bench.
Oh, a storefront bench, yeah. In front of the stores, they had benches because the shoppers, the storekeeper, the store owners would sit there and shmooze and put out for display their merchandise. In the Middle East, much of the commerce was done outdoors, not indoors. No air conditioning, I guess. And, the weather is not the weather of Eastern Europe, when the Jews went to Eastern Europe. So most commerce was done outside. So they had benches and chairs in front of the stores, which was called istivonis. And the harabayas, they had stav lifnim stav, 1 stav inside another stav, meaning it was 2 double rows, and that's why they had this place where they could put the shtei chalas.
It was on the edge of the mountain.
It was a mountaintop, yeah. The harabayas was in the middle, the Beis HaMikdash was in the harabayas, but on the mountain itself you could sit. In the Adar, once you come into the territory of the Beis HaMikdash, you couldn't sit. It was only Malchi Beis David. But outside on the harabayas, you could sit. I mean, you couldn't go on, as the Mishnah said, you couldn't go in with mud and with the mud on your feet. You had to clean yourself up, but you could sit there. It was fine.
So shops were around.
Not shops, no. The bench is similar to the benches in front of the shops, stone benches. You could see in the archaeological excavations in Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, you see.
Yeah, you could see these types of
You have the corridor with
chairs
shops
and
further
benches.
down.
Right.
Yeah.
So you could see it. It was made out of stone, and you could sit on it. It was basically a stone that you could sit on, and that was called an itztava, or istivonis. Huh?
Yeah.
And replace the rest, 1,000 people walking there.
Yeah, you could sit down. Yeah, people would meet.
Is that dinner, but not only a marketplace that is sitting in the
That's in the Azara. That's in the territory of the Beis HaMikdash itself. But this was the mountain around it.
in the Azar, that they
Yes.
are the ones
Only
that
Malchi
sit
Beis
there.
David, yeah.
Does that follow the same din in the base din that only the melech could sit?
No. Over there, everybody could sit.
What if the king is present? Are they allowed to sit? Because
Yeah,
he's the king?
if he sits, yeah.
No, say he's standing. They have to follow.
Then they would stand, yeah. Says the Mishnah. Okay, let's learn another little piece. Psulois, it was disqualified. Frag the Gemarah, my psulois. What, every year you had 2 chalas that were disqualified? Like, how did it happen? How did they become psulois? What happened here? So he says, Amar Reb Chanina, something very interesting. B'toich shahayu merubais nifsalois belina. There were so many carbon toidas brought on the 13th of Nisan that they couldn't finish all the bread. So much of the bread stayed overnight untouched, and in the morning it became disqualified. We have to remember, every carbon has a prescribed time limit for the carbon to remain kosher. Some carbonis you can eat for that day, the next night, and the next day. Right? 2 days and a night. The carbon toida not. The carbon toida you can eat that day that you bring it, and the next night. But that's it. So now, if I brought a carbon toida, I was saved, I bring a carbon toida, I have 40 pieces of bread. Look, I can't eat 40 pieces of bread, but I can eat it in Yerushalayim a whole day and a whole night. I can invite friends, relatives, stam people. I can invite all the poor people in Yerushalayim, come for a great meal, and within 10 minutes, all the bread is eaten up, and it's fine. You can eat it in Yerushalayim. Like we say every morning, HaToida ve'el nazar, kachim kalim, right? Nechalim b'chala ir, l'chal adam, b'chal ma'ich, l'yom v'layla. We say it every single day. You can give everybody. The Chachamim say to eat it till chatzayis, but it's fine enough. We have I'm being the carbon toida 11 o'clock in the morning. We have a whole day to eat it and much of the night to eat it. This was a regular day. The problem is most people didn't live in Yerushalayim. They're coming for Pesach anyway. So if I had to bring a carbon toida, I would bring it. I would be at Makriv Yud Gimel Nissen. Everybody was Makriv the toida Yud Gimel Nissen. So you could have had hundreds of carbon titles with hundreds of pieces of bread, and it's impossible to feed everybody with the machalim. So by hook or by as a result of that, nifsala is belina. What happens if the bread or the meat stays overnight? The moment morning comes, it becomes puzzle. It's like after the time limit. After it hits the time limit, it becomes nicer. It's left over. What's the halacha? You have to burn it. It becomes puzzle. That's why it's shtei chalas psulas. You dalad nissen in the morning, you had all these chalas that you couldn't do anything. There was only one eitzah to burn it. So you know what they did? They used two of them for a simon, for chametz. It's called kill two birds with one stone. Here it's not two birds, it's two breads with one stone. Not killing. But instead of burning it as nicer, we'll put the two together and we'll burn it as nicer and as chametz. It's also chametz. And in the meantime, it's going to be a simon to remind everybody about the hours. They took two of these challahs, which couldn't be eaten, and any meat or challah that goes after the prescribed time becomes possible, because again, only in its limited of time does it retain the kedusha. It's like expiration date. There's an expiration date. The moment morning comes, it's expired. You can't eat this meat anymore. Why? Because too much time has lapsed since the carbon was brought, and basically it loses its freshness in terms of spiritual kedusha, and you have to burn it. It's a very interesting halacha. It's a fascinating thing. Morning comes and it's it. This lechem is possible. So Reb Chanina said that used to happen. And he explains why were there so many karbanos on the 13th of Nisan. The Tanya, we learned a braysa, ein mevi'in toida b'chag hamatzos. You couldn't bring a toida on Pesach, mepnei chametz shaba, because part of the bread has to be chametz. So of course, you can't bring a carbon toida on Pesach. Very interesting halacha. Shavuos is not a problem. Sukkot is not a problem. But Pesach is a problem. This is what the Brisa says. Says the Gemarah in Besechta Beitza, quoting this Brisa. Pshita, obviously you can bring a carbon Pesach, a carbon toida on Pesach. By Yerah, by Yematzah. You're going to bake chametz in the Beis HaMikdash? It's by Yerah, by Yematzah, right? You're not allowed to have chametz for a carbon. And also, since you're not allowed to eat this chametz, so if you're going to bring a carbon toida with this bread, the carbon is going to be disqualified, because the carbon can only have food that you're allowed to eat. If you're not allowed to eat it, it's going to disqualify the carbon, and you're not allowed to have chametz. So obviously, what the Brisa means is even on your daladness and erev Pesach, you're not allowed to bring a carbon toida. Because the Brisa holds ein mevi and kachim lebeis hapsul. You're not allowed to make a carbon in a way that you're going to cause it to become disqualified. If you're bringing a carbon toida erev Pesach, how much time do you have to eat the bread? Till 11 o'clock, or even midaraisa till 12 o'clock. It's impossible to eat it so little. So you're going to cause b'mezid kachim to become puzzle. You're going to have to burn it, because there's nothing you can do. Erev Pesach, you can't eat it anymore. So it's going to become Sait's chametz, and Sait's going to become nicer. So you're making kachim become invalidated, and you're not allowed to do that. So therefore, they couldn't bring it Yudalad Nissen. That's the chiddush. So what would they do? So the whole world would do the carbon on Yud Gimel Nissen. You couldn't do it on Pesach. You couldn't do it Yud Daled. You're going home after Pesach. You're not in Yerushalayim. So when do you bring it? You bring it Yud Gimel. There was so many carbonas in Yud Gimel Nissen, everybody jammed it into one day. There were not enough people to eat the breads. So there were breads that were left over till Yud Daled Nissen in the morning. They became disqualified through staying over the night. They're now puzzle, and that's what Rabbi Yehuda said, Shtei chalis psulas. They took two of those chalas which had to be burnt in the morning. But instead of burning them in the morning, what would you do? You would put them on the roof of one of the benches on the Harabayas and use them as a sign when you have to stop eating chametz, when you burn the chametz, and that's what happened.
There's no possible way for there to be chalas shares on the dalit.
How are you going to have chalas ksheris on your dalit? Only if you brought the carbon on your dalit. But you're not allowed to, the Bryce says you're not allowed to bring carbonas on your dalit. So the only way you can bring a carbon is Yud Gimel. So by Yud Dalet, it's possible.
I'm asking on that they're even using the word psulas. Two chalas, obviously it's possible. They're saying
No, it's a shtei chalas toida psulas. Why would two chalas of carbon toida be possible? If it's regular chalas, it's not puzzle. Puzzle means it's puzzle, it's disqualified. The answer is because it's a carbon. And it went through the night, and you didn't need it at night because you had so many carbonas. So mail in the morning, it became puzzle, and that's what they used. They had to burn it anyway. So before they burnt it, they used it as a sign for chametz.
some of they gave out a lot of chalas probably to people sitting on those benches. No, so many people come out. Maybe you want to eat. Yeah.
But you couldn't eat this challah.
I'm saying the day before.
The day before, you can give all the people to eat. Yeah. But because there were so many carbonas, everybody brought, and there were 40 loaves of bread for each carbon. 10 of them were chametz, but there were 40. 30 were matzah.
You have to eat all of
And you have to eat all of them. And you can't eat it all by yourself, even with your family. The matzah is a problem. Because it also gets disqualified. The carbon Todah gets disqualified. At Pesach, the matzah is not a problem, but it's a carbon, it's a problem. So in the morning, there was all puzzle. If you use regular challah, you can give it to the people. But this, you couldn't give to the people because it was puzzle. You had to burn it anyway. So before they burnt it, they kept it as a sign.
You let it bring
Yeah.
Even though like today you think of Chaim, we do it in 3 days.
Right.
It's not like
Right.
carbon.
The carbon you could bring later, yeah. So people would come Pesach anyway. Instead of going to Yerushalayim back and forth when they don't have to go, they're coming Pesach anyway. So they would go a day earlier, so they can be Makivid Gimel.
Why did say they stay a day later after Pesach? If they're coming already a day earlier before, then
He's just saying that
Bring it-
he's saying the Metzias that they used to come Yud Gimel and bring it.
that's how they go.
I guess because before Pesach they wanted to come anyway earlier to prepare the carbon Pesach, to prepare the Seder,
Oh, so
got to
they were
prepare
all
the
there
house.
already.
So people came earlier.
Meats is not a problem because it doesn't have, meats is not a problem.
The meat is also a problem.
Kmitza,
Oh, kmitza.
is not a problem on basic because it doesn't, it's not baked.
All the menachas were matzah. All menachas were matzah, so there was no problem.
What, the part that the Kohen does with his hand.
Yes, but it was matzah. It was flour. It was flour and water or oil before it became
Yes,
chametz.
what I'm saying, it wasn't machmitz. So it's
It was not machmetz, right? It's not a problem. The one problem was a carbon toida, which had to be baked as chametz. You had to let the dough rise. That was the halach. It had to be chametz. Mishum Rabbi Yanai Amru. The name of Rabbi Yanai has a different explanation in our Mishnah. He says, Ksheris hayu. I disagree with this idea that these two chalos were puzzle. They were ksheris. In other words, I don't believe that they had to leave over, they had to use two chalas that were left over from yesterday's carbon. Their date expired, so to speak, and therefore they were puzzle and they had to burn them. There's no need to say that. You could say that the two lachmei Todah that they put up were kosher, they were not yet disqualified. If they were not disqualified, why are you putting them up here and leaving them till the 6th hour when they're going to be burnt? If they're kosher, eat them. You don't do this to kosher. So we'll soon see why. But it wasn't because they're not kosher. They were kosher. Still, they wouldn't eat them because they couldn't eat them. We'll soon see why. And therefore, Rabbi Yanai says, it's not like Reb Chanina said, that these breads were already destined to be burnt. You can already burn them in the morning because they're nicer, because they're puzzle. That's not the case. These breads actually were not yet supposed to be burnt. Why? Because they were kosher. Still, there was a reason you couldn't eat them, but they weren't destined to be burnt. And therefore, they used them as a sign for chametz, and they burnt them at the beginning of the 6th hour. Why does Rabbi Yanai care to say what Reb Chanina said? It seems like a geschmack of art. L'chayre, it's a beautiful word because Yud Gimel Nisan, there was so many lachmei Todah. So one way you could say it is, the Maram Chalva says this, he feels that the previous explanation is wrong. Because according to Reb Chanina, they basically left nicer around for a few hours without burning it. And that's a hazard. To leave nicer when you have to burn it in the morning is a hazard. So that's why he disagrees that they had to burn it in the morning. According to Reb Chanina, they had to burn it in the morning, but they did not because they wanted to use it as a sign for the people. It could be Rabbi Yanai disagrees with that and says that since nicer has to be burnt, you're not allowed to just leave it intact until the 6th hour. Why? Because somebody may come to stumble and eat it, and it's an Isser Kares. According to Reb Chanina? No, it's not Me'ilah.
Rabbi Yanai says that they're valid, they're not possible.
Oh, we'll soon see. We'll soon see what he means. You will soon see what he means. But according to Reb Chanina, we understand that there's no Me'ilah because these breads were actually supposed to be eaten by you. And they just were left over. So it's not Me'ilah. You have to burn it. You're saying Loit Rabbi Yanai. Okay, we'll soon see in a moment. Okay. We'll soon see in a moment. Another way of learning Rabbeinu Yanai, and this Rabbeinu David says, is that the Koyanim would not allow a carbon to become nicer. And therefore Rabbi Yanai says, I don't believe that every year they would find breads that were possible. They would not allow it to be nicer. By hook or by crook, they would eat up those challahs, and if you got to eat a little extra, you eat a little extra. That's what Rabbeinu David says. That's a very interesting interpretation. Maram Chalva says, Rabbi Yanai says, they would not leave the noiser in the morning without being burnt because it's a michshel, it's a stumbling block. Rabbeinu David says, another issue, says, no, the issue is Rabbi Yanai doesn't hold that the Kohanim would allow there to be noiser. It can happen, but it's not something you could rely on annually and say, don't worry, there's going to be chalos, psulis, there's going to be noiser. And therefore, Rabbi Yanai says, I completely disagree with your whole explanation. I believe that these chalos were ksheiros. They were not ready to be burnt, because if they were ready to be burnt, they should have been burnt right away. Or I don't believe that there would be noiser that's ready to be burnt. These were chalas ksheiros. If they were chalas ksheiros, why don't you eat them? That's what the Gemarah is going to discuss now. But it's not the noiser type of challah that you spoke about. That was not the issue. The issue was not, this was left over from yesterday's carbon, and the date expired, and as a result of that, a Jew is not allowed to eat it anymore. It has to be burnt because it went after the prescribed limit that the Torah gives to eat the carbon. That's not the case. What is the case then? In the Mishnah it says on the Afir Aleph Amid Beis, Rabbi Yehuda's lashon was v'oid av'oidam rudishtei chala shel Todah psulais munachos al gavei. So what do you mean they weren't psulais? You're telling me ksheirus? The Mishnah says psulais. The answer is shaloi nishchat alein hazevach. The problem is not noiser. The problem is actually the opposite. Noiser means you did everything, and you can eat it, and you just left it for too long, till the time expired. This is the opposite problem. The process didn't begin yet. Lo nishchat alein hazevach means that the carbon, the animal, was not slaughtered yet. The behema that comes with the lechem was not slaughtered, and therefore you can't eat this lechem. What does this mean? Let's explain. So why would you have it? Excellent. The system was when a person consecrated an animal for a carbon todah. I bought an animal, I said, this is my carbon todah. Then I also consecrate the bread, the flour for my lechem for the carbon todah, right? This is going to the Beis HaMikdash for the carbon. It becomes holy. This is called Kedushas Mamain. What do we mean by Kedushas Mamain? In the Beis HaMikdash, you always have to differentiate between two types of sanctity. Kedushas Mamain and Kedushas Haguf. Kedushas Mamain means its monetary value is holy. Kedushas Haguf means the very entity, the guf, the body is holy. What's the difference? The difference is, let's say I donate a watch to the Beis HaMikdash. A watch can't go on the Mizbeach. What do you do with a watch? A watch is a monetary contribution to the Beis HaMikdash. They could sell it and have money. That's called Kedushas Mamain. It's holy. The watch is holy. But what's holy? Not the watch itself, the monetary value. Meaning, I could come tomorrow and say, oh, this is my Zayda's watch. I don't want to give it away to the Beis HaMikdash. And I redeem it. I give them the money, and I take it. And the value, the holiness, now goes to the money, and the watch becomes chulin. That's called Kedushas Mamain. Anything you donate to the Beis HaMikdash. You donate lumber, you donate money, you donate food. You donate your house, whatever you want. You could donate your house. It's called Bedek Habayis. You give away your house. It's Kedushas Mamain. And therefore you could redeem it. It's not that the thing itself becomes essentially sacred. You're not putting it on the Mizbeach. You're not putting a house on the Mizbeach. You're not putting a car on the Mizbeach. You're donating the car like people donate a car to an organization. They donate, you don't put the car in the shul on the Mizbeach. It's the monetary value. Then there's something called Kedushas Haguf. Kedushas Haguf means something that's actually going on the altar. Or like a behemoth, the animal, when you make it Kaddish, Kedushas Haguf, you say this is a carbon. It's not just you're donating the monetary value of the animal itself becomes Kaddish. And you know what? You can't redeem it. There's nothing you can do to redeem it. The sanctity now permeates the very essence of the animal. It's not the value of the animal that you consecrated. It's not the $100 that the animal is, the $1,000 that the animal cost you that you're donating. So give $1,000. The animal itself has Kedushas Haguf. There's no pidyon. Unless it becomes a balmum. If it becomes blemished and it's not fit for the Mizbeach, then it lost it because it can't be a carbon anymore. But as long as it remains suitable to be makriv, it's called Kedushas Haguf. This lechem joins the carbon. So it's going to reach a state of Kedushas Haguf. But when? Only after the shechita, after the animal is slaughtered. So when I sanctified this bread initially for the carbon, it's Kedushas Mamain, and I could redeem it. If this flour is worth $50, I can give $50 and take it. After I slaughter the animal for the carbon Todah, that's when the lechem assumes Kedushas Haguf. Now it goes into a different category. What happens now? Now, first of all, it's Nifsalois Belina. Nifsalois Belina means if it stays overnight, it becomes disqualified. Why? Because it's Kedushas Haguf. It's not only Kedushas Mammon. Kedushas Mammon, you could leave. If I take flour and I donate it to the Beis HaMikdash, it could be there for a year. The moment it becomes a carbon, Kedushas Haguf, now it's sensitive to a bunch of stuff. It's completely sensitive. It doesn't lose Kedushas Mammon. Kedushas Haguf doesn't lose
Until
it.
now it's Kedushas Mammon.
Only Kedushas Mammon.
Right. And then once
And now-
you're not makriv, the
No, a chelik of it, you're makriv.
the lechem.
Yeah, just like the behema. You're not makriv the whole behema on the Mizbeach. The parts of it, you're makriv, the fat. The rest you eat yourself. The lechem too. The kohen does kmitza, right? A fistful of flour, that gets burned, and then you eat.
Oh, so someone. Oh.
Yeah. So it's Kedushas Haguf.
Bread is also, they don't put the whole bread on the big.
Not in this case. The mincha of a kohen, he had to burn completely on the Mizbeach. Like a carbon oila. But this carbon was not a carbon oila.
So for carbon Todah, they used to break the bread.
There's the part that the kohen burns, but then you eat.
Oh, so that makes
So
it.
there is a concept of breaking a bread
So therefore, there's the concept of Kedushas Haguf. After, there's a shchita. Now, if it becomes tamei, for example, right, you can't redeem it anymore. When there's Kedushas Mammon, if I give flour, just with money, and it becomes tamei, redeem it. But once it's Kedushas Haguf, it becomes tamei, you can't redeem it anymore. You have to burn it. Once it stays over the night, and in the morning I can't say, oh, you know what, I'll redeem it. There's nothing to redeem anymore. It's Kedushas Haguf. That's why it was affected this way. So therefore, you need the shchita, the slaughtering of the carbon, in order to make it kadosh b'kedushas haguf. That's what you need. After the shchita of the carbon, this now becomes a chelik of that carbon. Now, after you slaughter the animal, you have to sprinkle the blood. You slaughtered the animal, you took the blood in a keli, you went to the mizbeach, and you sprinkle the blood. After you sprinkle the blood, that's when you can eat everything. You can eat the animal, and you can eat the chalos, which becomes mutter. When you can eat the flesh of the animal, you can eat the chalos of the carbon Todah after you sprinkle the blood. So the chalos are like an accessory to the carbon itself, to the animal itself. Before I slaughtered the animal, before I sprinkled the blood, I can't eat the chalos Todah. Just like I can't eat the behema before I slaughtered and sprinkled the blood. So he says that's what happened here. Basically, you had the chalos Todah. They were holy, right? B'kedushas mammon. So he says, so why are you calling them psulos? If they were ksheros, they weren't nicer. He says the reason that they were pasul is not that they were pasul essentially that had to be burnt. They were pasul in the sense that you couldn't eat them because you didn't slaughter the animal yet. Because you didn't slaughter the animal yet, so therefore what are you supposed to do with this bread? It's Erev Pesach in the morning. You didn't slaughter the animal. What do you do with this bread now? Right? That's the issue. Reb Chanina said what made it pasul was it was nicer, which Reb Yanai didn't like, because that would mean either that the Kohanim caused something to be nicer, or that you're leaving nicer intact without burning it. He says, no, that wasn't the issue. The issue now is not the concept of nicer. The issue is a different concept. The carbon was not brought yet. Because the carbon was not brought yet, psulos means not that it's pasul, that it's unworthy bread, you can't eat it. You can't eat it yet because the carbon wasn't slaughtered. That's what happened. So what did they do with it? They took the bread and they used it as a simon for chametz. And then they burnt it by the 6th hour. Good question. Wait one moment and it will be clear. But I want you to take a look in Rashi. Ksheris hayu. Yes. The shchita converts it from kedushas mammon to kedushas haguf, and after the zrika, you can eat it. No carbon could be eaten before you finish sprinkling the blood. The sprinkling of the blood finished the avodah connected to God, and now you could go do your thing. You did shchita, Haylacha, Kabbalah, Haylacha, Zrika, you're done. Now go enjoy. That was the system. You slaughtered, you accepted the blood, you brought it to the Mizbech, the Kayin, sprinkled it, right? And you're good. You're done. The Avodah was now done. The sprinkle of the blood culminates the Avodah, and now you go eat and enjoy. All the Karbanas that way, besides the carbon oil, which you didn't eat. And then you still have to burn the fats. After you sprinkle the blood, you have to burn the fat.
No, I'm saying it's ironic because Azar could do
The shchita, right?
could do the shkita, but that's what converts it from.
Yeah. So the shchita makes the lechem kedushas haguf, and then you have to finish the avodah, and then you can eat it. Here there was no shchita yet. There was no shchita yet. Let's see Rashi who explains this. Ksheris hayu. Koloimar. Afilu loy hayu lehen psul gadol kalina. Interesting. Even though this lechem didn't have a serious psul, like lina, shen kvar l'sreifa, it's not that it was a carbon that stayed over the night, and it's nicer and you have to burn it. That's not the psul. Rashi says there was no psul gadol. Afilu hachi me'acha shein lem takana leyachal. Since you have no way of eating it, why? Because there was no shchita. Even though it still needs ibur tzura. Ibur tzura means it has to lose its form, which means, let's say I have bread that there was no shchita. No shchita on this bread. There was absolutely no shchita. What would be the halacha? The halacha would be, I can't burn it. Why can't I burn it? Because there's no nicer yet. It's not nicer. It's just not yet edible to eat. Until there would be ibur tzura. Ibur tzura would mean it would lose its form. And then you would burn it. But that's not the case here. It's Erev Pesach in the morning. It didn't lose its form. Yavin and luhasam. So therefore you could put it on the platform in the harabayas and you'll burn it. Vehechi dami kigoin shlei nishchat alein hazevach. Veyesh alein kedushas dami mishahuktashu. They have kedushas mammon, the kedusha of money. Ve'ein le'en heter actually yishachat alein hazevach v'yizorik hadam. The lachmei toiden kedoshim kedushas aguf ele b'shchitas hazevach. Kedetanya b'menachas. Al chalois lechem chametz yakriv karbonoi al zevach. Melamed shein alechem kadosh ela bezvichas hatoida. Only when you slaughter the toida does the bread become holy. V'hai kadosh kedushas haguf deka amar. The mishash amar harei alayla toidasi chalalem shem hektash. The moment you said I have to bring this bread for my carbon toida, it's holy, but not kedushas haguf. Aval ein kedusha is lipasel belina ubetvul yoim. It's not so holy that if it gets tameh you can't redeem it, or if a tvul yoim touches it. A tvul yoim means somebody who went to the mikveh, but night didn't come yet, so he's not fully pure. V'im nitmu nivdin v'yotzin l'chulin achi yeshachet hazevach alein. Ukeshem sha'azevach mekatshon, kach bezrikas hadam nitarin heim la'achila kipsar hatoida atzmoi. Through shchita, you'll have kedushas haguf, and when they sprinkle the blood, you can eat it. Just like the toida itself. The hayol utluyin ba, harehi kamoiha. The bread is dependent on the animal, it has the same status. Muzrikas hadam materes kachim, diksiv v'dam zvachecha yishafech v'hadar v'habasar taichal. After the result of sprinkling the blood, you can eat the basar. B'meila tainas Rabbi Yanai, this is what happened. Now comes the $1 million question. One word, v'nishchait. You have bread that's holy, so why are you burning it? Why are you using it as chametz and you're going to burn it? Shecht your animal and eat the bread. I don't understand. V'nishchait. Shecht the animal, Erev Pesach in the morning, sprinkle the blood, and eat the chalos. I don't understand what you're doing. Why are we allowing them to just display the chalos till beer chametz? You could do the right thing. You could shecht it and eat it the way you have to eat it.
You're not allowed to bring a toida in Erev Pesach.
Oh, so you're asking, what is the Gemarah asking? You're not allowed to bring a carbon toida Erev Pesach, right? So the question is, that's what the tzlach says, what happened? Why didn't they shecht it? Like you said before, if they knew they're not going to shecht it, why did you end up in this mess? When did this happen? The guy did it, Yudalad Nissi, you're not supposed to do Yudalad. He did it yesterday. Why didn't they shecht the animal? What happened? Why did this happen? Where did this debacle happen from? A person sanctified bread for a carbon toida. When did he do this? And he sanctified an animal. So he did this Yudalad Nissen in the morning. Why did he do Yudalad Nissen in the morning when nobody is shechting it? Yeah, he probably had to speak to somebody, consult. So he didn't do it then. He did it yesterday. So if he did it yesterday, what happened? Why didn't they shech the animal? Why are we left here with bread? Like, what happened here? Where did this whole Ma'aseh happen? So the Gemara answers interestingly. Sha'avad hazevach. Avad hazevach means it was lost. The behemoth ran away. Now the interesting thing is that they relied that this is going to happen every year because they needed a simon for Pesach. So the answer obviously is that there was such a balagan that they knew that there's going to be an animal that's going to get lost.
Was that animal specific for that korban also? And maybe
This guy's carbon, one of the carbonas,
I mean, it had to be that specific animal.
a carbon toida.
So it could have gotten mixed
So the Gemara says, 1 second. V'nesis evachacha v'nishchet. 1 second. Bring another carbon and shecht it. The animal got lost, so you replace it. So he says, no. The Amar, the person said, Zui toida v'zu lachma. This behemoth is the carbon toida, and this bread is bread for this one. So what? Kudei Rabbi. The Amar Rabbi. Avad halechem mevi lechem acher. Of the toida, ein mevi toida acheres. If the bread got lost, you could replace the bread. If the behemoth got lost, if the toida itself got lost, you can't replace the behemoth with this bread. You'll have to bring new bread. If I have a behemoth, which is the primary entity here, and the bread got lost, even though I said zu toida v'zu lachma, no problem. You don't have to get rid of the behemoth. You bring new bread and you do the carbon. But if it was the other way around, the bread remained, the behemoth got lost, so I need a new behemoth for my carbon toida. That's true, I need it. But I need new bread. I can't use the bread that was dedicated for the behemoth, the other behemoth for this one. Why? My time, lechem glal toida. Ve'ein toida glal lechem.
Didn't replace it.
Gesundheit. Gesundheit.
So you should do.
You could.
Yeah, you could.
So you basically redeem it and then rededicate it for a different animal.
1 second. We'll get to the 1 second. Good. You're right. All the Gemara is saying is that you can't use this lechem for another animal. Why? Because the lechem comes because of the toida. The toida doesn't come because of the lechem. In other words, the lechem, the bread, the 40 loaves of bread are tuffle. They're subservient to the animal. The animal is the primary component of the carbon. Once you establish that this lechem belongs for this animal, zu toida, v'zu lachma, once you did that, this lechem cannot now be joined with another behemoth. It, so to speak, belongs, halachically, it belongs to this behemoth. So therefore, if this behemoth is lost, fafal, and I can't do anything with this lechem. What I have to do is redeem the lechem, very good. Get the money. The lechem is now chulin, the lechem is regular bread, anybody can eat it. And I take the money, and I buy a new behemoth, because I don't have a behemoth, or I buy new bread, whatever it is.
Same bread. You buy the same bread.
Would be the same. Yeah, if you want.
Again, if you have a new animal, you will do shchit.
Okay, very good. But we just answered why they can't bring another behemoth. You're saying there was the behemoth was lost. He says, okay. So if behemoth was lost, bring another behemoth. So he says another behemoth won't help because this lechem you still can't eat with that behemoth. Why? Because this lechem belonged to another behemoth. So in Mela, this lechem is not edible as a carbon, and therefore it's possible in that sense, so you could burn it. You'll bring another animal, you're going to have to bring different bread. Since you're going to have to bring different bread, so what do you do with this bread? This bread belongs to the Beis HaMikdash, and it's chametz. So you use it as a simon, and then you'll burn it. You can't leave it over Pesach.
What does that have to do with why you couldn't get it done on Yud Gimel? You get a new bread.
It got lost. The behemoth got lost.
Get another animal.
They got a new animal, but this bread they couldn't use. They got a new animal. We asked, why is this bread becoming a whole show scene? It's a carbon. Just take care of it. Why are the Chachamim doing this whole ma'aseh? This is bread for a carbon toida. Just do what you have to do with it. Right? That was the question. So the answer is, because it wasn't shechted. The behemoth wasn't shechted. So he said, so shecht it. So shecht it and eat it. So he says, because it got lost. So he says, if it got lost, so bring another animal. Let's say I'm makdish a carbon and it gets lost. So I bring another animal. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I bring another makr of it. So what's the problem? He says, I could bring another animal. Maybe I did bring another animal, but I couldn't use this bread anymore. So this bread is kedushas mama, not kedushas aguf. It's chametz, so I'm going to have to burn it, right? It's hektish, so what do we do with it? We use it. We take 2 of these challahs and we use it as a simon. for the benefit of the public. There's nothing else I can do with it. It's not nicer. I don't have to burn it. It's not nicer. It's Frag the Gemarah. Frag the Gemarah.
Where would they take the first one off? This is after the first morning, they would take 1 hour later.
10 o'clock they would take one, 11 o'clock they would take both. They would burn it an hour later.
The other 8?
It was on 2.
The other 8, they just burnt. What are they supposed to do?
Outside? No, outside.
They didn't want to put 10 challahs on the platform because nobody knew what hit them. Put 10 challahs, then take one away, so now I have to start counting. 9, 10, it's a minion. They couldn't, you understand, that would be more confusing than anything else. Oh, there's 9, there's 8, no, there's 7, there's 9. Or actually, in this case, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Bdikas chametz here.
You understand? It's good. 10 is good for bdikas chametz. Very good. If you have to do bdikas chametz, so they had to have 2 because 2 is very obvious. There's 2, and now there's 1. It's very clear. If you start putting 10, it's very hard to see, especially if you're far away. You're not right there. This is for the whole olam to see. Frag the Gemarah v'nifrikinu. I don't understand. Redeem the bread v'nafkinu l'chulin, and let it become chulin. What are you doing? What are you torturing this poor challah for? Let it become chulin and let people do whatever they want. There's nothing to do with this bread. It can't go with the other behemoth because it was already consecrated to one behemoth. The other behemoth was brought with new bread. So redeem this bread, let it become chulin, let people eat it, let people sell it, let them do. What are you doing? Redeem it, let it go out l'chulin. The money will belong to Israel. Why are you taking these poor challahs and just turning them into the spectacle and having them burned by beer chametz? And again, we have to remember that they were very sensitive to just burning food for no reason, especially when it was hektish. This was hektish. So why are you causing hektish to be burnt for beer chametz? There's no reason for it. It's true we can't eat it because the carbon wasn't shechted and we don't have the carbon. It got lost. I got it. So there's an eitzah. It's kedushas mammon. Redeem it, let it go l'chulin, and then everybody can eat it. And you don't cause hektish to become burnt for no reason. No, they didn't do that. They used these challahs to place them up there, so you're not redeeming them, you're leaving them on the itznava, and they're going to go till the 6th hour, and then you have to burn them because it's chametz. Erev Pesach you have to burn. You're not allowed to have chametz in the Beis HaMikdash.
Fine.
Well, sometimes people will redeem it just for the sake. Take a look in Rashi. V'nifrikinu, the second from the wide line. The chol's man shalei kitshul legufan yesh lehem pidyon. V'hoyel v'yesh lehem takana bekach lama anu mafsidin kotcha. It's not just a question of bread being scarce. In this case, there was no scarcity of bread because the carbon Todah had a lot of surplus, perhaps. But the problem is, lama anu mafsidin kotcha. This is kadosh. It's not kedushas haguf, but it's still hektish. You don't take something of hektish and cause it to be burnt unless you have to. If it stays till the shah shishis, you have no choice. It's chametz. You have to do tashbisu even in the Beis HaMikdash by your by your Monsey. You're not allowed to have chametz. You're not allowed to have chametz. What?
So don't buy it, and they're gonna have to burn it an hour later.
They don't have to burn it. They can eat it. They can sell it.
Let's say they only have an hour. They're doing it on the 14th in the morning. Not much time to be redeeming it and eating it. There's not much time.
Well, they already had it 6 o'clock in the morning. They already had it last night. Remember, we established that the Todah was brought yesterday. It's just yesterday you lost your carbon. You lost your behemoth. So you already yesterday you could have. We're not talking about redeeming it on your dalad. We're talking about redeeming it on your gimel.
How's the value for that opinion established when there's so much of a surplus?
You're right. It may be very cheap. It may be very cheap, which makes it easier for people to redeem. So we're talking about redeeming it on Yud Gimel, and there's plenty of time to eat it. You can gift it to somebody. You can give it to somebody else.
You can't sell this to a guy.
Thank you. If it was redeemed, could you sell it to a guy? I'm not sure you're allowed to. Because pidyon hektish, it has something. I have to look. By a behemoth, for sure not. By lechem, could be also not. I think not. But you can eat it yourself. Remember, the redemption would be Yud Gimel, because what are you going to do with this bread? This bread you can't use for a carbon Todah, right? The behemoth is lost. So what do I do with it? Redeem it. Let it go l'chulin. No, they didn't redeem it. They left it till the morning, and then they burnt it b'shah shishis.
Maybe it was a tzarech tzibur, so you're allowed. It's not like they're letting it to waste. They're using it for
The
something.
inyan not to be mafsid kachim is a serious thing.
even though it's used.
It's not like tzarich yitzibah. Find something else. Find another thing to put on the platform. I don't know. Let somebody do a magic show. Find something else. You're taking kach. Maybe if you have to burn it, I understand. That's Reb Chanini. Anyway, burning it, it's nice. But hey, you don't have to burn it. So your mamish be a dayim causing hectares to be destroyed. For what? For a simon. Find another simon. I understand if you're anyway burning it, it's a good thing. And it's chametz. So it's actually a geschmaka simon. In other words, the best simon is chametz, right? Why did they use lechem todah? They couldn't find something else. Put 2 apples. The answer is, if I look at 2 apples, I don't necessarily remember chametz. It's apples. If I see 2 big chalas of chametz, inflated chalas, and it's Erev Pesach, they take away a challah, it means I got to start cleaning up the mess. Cleaning up. They take away both chalas. In other words, it's very geschmack to have chametz as a simon because it's a direct reminder. Right. Sag the Gemarah. So what's Rabbi Yanai really thinking? Ella, he says you're right. It's something else happened. La'olam shenishchat alein azavach. They did slaughter the carbon. No, they slaughtered the carbon, so it's kedushas haguf. So eat it. Ooh, what happened was v'nishbach hadam. Before they finished sprinkling the blood spilled out. And therefore this bread is never going to become mutter to eat. Let's remember, when does the flesh of the carbon become mutter to eat and the lechem? Only after shchita and zrika. Because it spilled out before they finished the avodah of the dam, so side the animal and side the bread remain forbidden to consume forever. Because the avodah was not done and it's kedushas haguf. It's already holy. The behemoth is dead after the shchita. It's a carbon. It's not redeemable. And the lechem is not redeemable because it's after shchitas hazevach. So now what are you supposed to do? Because of this, you're never going to be able to eat it. You can't redeem it anymore. So therefore they said you can already use the chalas for a simon, even though it's not nicer. Remember, it's not nicer. It's not left over, right? It never became mutter. And therefore you're not mechuyev to burn it now. You would only be mechuyev to burn it after ibur tzura when it loses its form, or it goes through the night. But that didn't happen yet. So l'cha'oira, you wouldn't have to burn it. Nonetheless.
So what's the probability? Unless the keli is like...
No, but before he finished the avodah. Monsey, let's see Rashi. Here are the key words. Teshuv ein lam takana. There's nothing you could do anymore. Meaning you can't redeem it. It's kedushas haguf. Ukegoyin shenishbech adam. Umiyu adayin ein. If it's nishbech adam, 1 second. So why does Rabbi Yanai say ksheros? They're not ksheros, they're psulos. Just like Reb Chanina called them psulos. Why is it ksheros? So Rashi says, Umiyu adayin ein tu'unas reif. Because really they don't have to be burnt yet. They first have to lose their form. In this case, where the bread is not nicer, but it's also not edible because the blood got spilled, do you have to burn it or not? You're not allowed to eat it. So when it loses its form, then you burn it. It's called ibur tzura. The Tanam beKeitzat Tzolin. Kol shepisule begufay. The Gemara says in Keitzat Tzolin daf pei beis. Kol shepisule begufay. If the disqualification happened in the guf itself, for example, you left over the meat after the time yisarif miyad. It has to be burnt. It became tameh. It became pasal belina. The flesh itself, the bread itself got pasal. You have to burn it right away, like noiser or tumah. Bedamo bebailim. What if the psul was in the blood or in the owner? Then to ubar tzurasoi v'yetzi lebeis hasreif. Then it first has to lose its form. Its tzura has to go away. It has to lose its form, like bread. It loses its form. Va'filu, and then it gets burnt. There's 2 types of psulim, right? Let's say I'm makriv of the carbon, everything is good, I sprinkle the blood, and then I take the meat, and I want to take it home to eat, yeah? And somebody dies in the house, right? And the meat becomes tameh. That's called psulei begufay. The meat is tameh, or the bread becomes tameh. So I have to burn it right away. Or it's tameh belina. It's pasal belina, I mean it stays over the night. So this is called psulei begufay, that you have to burn right away. But what if the psul is not in the food itself? The psul is in the blood. For example, the blood got spilled out. The carbon itself, the meat or the bread is kosher. Or bailim. The owner becomes tamei, so he now can't eat it. Now you don't have to burn it right away because that itself didn't become tamei. You have to wait till ibur tzura.
Are you allowed to burn it right away?
No.
You have to wait anyway.
Right. You have to wait. That's why he calls it ksheros. That's why he calls it ksheros. Why? Because you're not supposed to burn it. It's a very interesting. That's why Rashi is being ma'irich. Because you don't have to burn it right away. It's not noiser. Reb Chanina says it's noiser, so he calls it psulos. But since this, you don't have to burn right away. Right? In fact, you have to wait till the night passes to burn. Ibur tzura means the form changes, or even if you leave it through the night, usually there's a change already in the morning. The bread is not the same bread, or the meat. Remember, it's not refrigerated or frozen. So if you leave it through the night, it's already a little bit of ibur tzura, so you could burn it the next morning. But since that didn't happen, so therefore it's still called ksheros, and because it's called ksheros, Rabbi Yanai says it's not the same like noiser. But because it's not edible, so what would they do? They would use it as a sign for chametz, and they would burn it in the beginning of the 6th hour because it was chametz, and chametz you have to burn.
What status does it acquire in the morning?
So that's a shayla. We don't bring a carbon todah on the 14th. We bring a carbon todah on the 13th. So supposedly this happened on the 13th. If this happened on the 13th, so then there was already l'chayra ibur tzura in the morning. So you would anyway have to burn it. So it's like Reb Chanina. What's the difference? Chanina says it's nicer, and you say it was ibur tzura. So that's a little shver. So it seems like the Tosfos Harosh says that you have to say that Rabbi Yanai didn't hold that you didn't bring a carbon todah on the 14th. In other words, he held that sometimes you did, and it could be because Rabbi Yanai feels that they never allowed noiser. They would never allow for noiser. So maybe Rabbi Yanai Taka holds that they didn't always allow all the karbonis on Yud Gimel. It would work because he didn't feel. Remember, we explained that Rabbi Yanai didn't agree with Reb Chanina because he didn't feel that you would allow noiser. Kohen would allow noiser. So maybe he felt that sometimes they were makriv on Yudalid. If this happened on Yudalid and the blood spilled, then you wouldn't have to burn the challah until the next morning after Ibur Tzura. But because it's not edible, so they burnt it earlier with the chametz, and they used it as a simon for chametz, and they weren't destroying kachim, because this is anyway going to a place of destruction. There's nothing you're going to do with this bread. You can't redeem it, so there's nothing to do. So they already used it for chametz, for a simon for chametz. In a funny way, they basically used it for a good purpose, because really this lechem, there's nothing to do with it.
Only if they didn't do it according to Rabbi. Only if it was brought on the 13th.
If it was brought on the 13th, then you would anyway have to burn it in the morning, because it would be Ibr Tzura. But if it was brought on the 14th, and you can't eat it, why? Because the blood spilled, right? And you're going to have to burn it anyway, Erev Pesach before Chatzos. So they already used it as a simon for chametz. Why can't you burn it?
Either it has to be overnight.
No, but Erev Pesach you have to burn it mitzat chametz. Mitzat the carbon you wait overnight, but mitzat chametz you have to burn it. Bal yirah, bal yamatzeh. You understand? So they did it already earlier. Oh, we're going to get there. We're going to get there in a moment. Next piece. Huh? You don't have to. You have to wait till the form leaves, till the form changes, or overnight. But then they would have to burn it in the morning right away. He wouldn't call it ksheris. Why would Rabbi Yanai call these breads ksheris? It means it's different than Reb Chanina. Reb Chanina calls it psulos because it's noiser. If you have to burn it right away, it's just like noiser. So why would he call it ksheris if it went through the night? If you burn a carbon yud gimel and the blood spilled out and this lechem stays overnight, you have to burn it in the morning.
Why overnight?
Because overnight its form changes.
It doesn't mean you have to burn it right away. It means you're allowed to burn it.
After Ibur Tzura, you have to burn it because it's a michsha.
It's not like noise, so you have to burn it right away. More like,
You're saying that Ibur Tzura you could delay.
No, but you can't eat it either.
So that's why he calls it ksheris. Why don't they just take from a store 2 breads of chulin? Yeah? Like, what do you need this whole maisa with a toida and this? It's a good question.
But apparently, they probably had so much carbon.
Right, that's what I would think. In other words, it's hard a little bit for us to understand because Baruch Hashem, we have a lot of food. Just to take 2 regular pieces of bread that are innocent and people can eat and burn it, they wouldn't do it. The point here is, again, I don't mean it literally, they were killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You understand? These were food that they anyway couldn't eat. Regular bread, eat it, feed it to your children. It's hard for us to understand, but there was no surplus of food. Food was very, very precious. Even in the case with the carbon Todah, there was extra bread, but it was karbonas bread. It wasn't stam food. It was very serious food, in the sense that famine and hunger was part of the staple. It was a staple of life, unfortunately. So just to take chul and bread, they could have. But they prefer to kill two birds with one stone. If you anyway have bread that you can't eat, so it's anyway going to be burnt. So why not use it as a simon for chametz? I mean, that's how people shot, I think. I think that makes sense how people shot. Good question. Good question. But I just want to, this is a big chiddush to say that Rabbi Yanai argues and holds that you could bring the carbon on your dollar. That's a big chiddush. And Taka, if you look in Tosfos, just take a look at the beginning of the Tosfos, the fourth Tosfos on the top. Ela lo olam shenishchat alein hazevach, and the blood spilled. Omer riva, the hashta hodar be mimasha omak ksheris hayu. Rabbi Yanai now has to retract the word ksheris. Why? The b'yud gimel ayri, you have to say it was yud gimel shenishchat hazevach kedam aleil. And now it's even more puzzled than according to Reb Chanina. Number one, the blood spilled. Number two, it stayed overnight. Okay, and therefore you have to say that it's not anymore. Initially, Rabbi Yanai said it's ksheris, but now he's changing psulos. Unless you say it was yudalid, like some Rishonim, Taicher Rashi, and then you could say that Rabbi Yanai's ksheris still maintains. But the question is now, if he's already getting to this situation, why couldn't he just say what Reb Chanina said? I understand he disagreed with Reb Chanina because Reb Chanina said that it's really something you have to burn in the morning because it's nicer. So Rabbi Yanai was uncomfortable with the fact that they didn't burn nicer. Rabbi Yanai was uncomfortable with the fact that they didn't burn nicer in the morning. Maybe that's one explanation, so he argued. But Tosfos is asking now, why doesn't he already agree with Reb Chanina based on this Maisa? Chanina is much better. Besides nishpech hadam, which is unusual, just say there was extra bread left over. It says ulekach maimed ben nishpech hadam shatam harishin shomer Reb Chanina metorch shein merubes nefsalas belina nira loy doichik. The eichi tachen dem pnei ribuy shalahen lo yimatze oichlim aloy mutarin lazara. He completely believes that it's untenable to assume that there were not enough people to eat the breads on Yud Gimel when everybody can eat it. If only Koyanim can eat it, I understand. But if every single Jew, man, woman, child, as long as you're in Yerushalayim, could eat it, what's the big deal to say that they found eaters for all the karbonas? And he doesn't believe that this concept is a practical concept, that every year Nefsal is Belin. And therefore Rabbi Yanai rejects Reb Chanina's idea, and he feels what happened was not the issue of Noiser, what happened was a completely different issue, and that is when there's so many karbonas, mistakes happen, people bump into each other, head-and-head collision, the blood spills. That's the issue. The night passed. You dial it in the morning. You have to burn it, and therefore you used it as chametz and you burnt it a little later.
How many titles were already brought?
You
only bring it if no, but you only bring it if something.
I don't know.
I mean,
could be a lot every day.
But the whole Klal Yisrael came.
So it's travel.
Every day
They
plus
were
all
like
the
that, so
all the
they get there.
flux of
so
tourism.
I mean, what's
They have to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
to
but,
Yeah.
something after.
They were coming anyways. They brought it then. It was for the whole Klal Yisrael. Ubi Yerushalmi, and this is Yerushalmi. Reb Chanina Gufe Mashani Haishinuya. In Yerushalmi, it's different. Here it's Reb Yanai. Over there, Reb Chanina says this. The Goras Hasim Reb Chanina Oim Psulas Hayim Neshahayim Memarim Lahavi Todah Sayin B'Pnei Chametz Shebetoides. Everybody was in a rush because Chametz. V'I Efshir Shelo Yishafech Dama Shal Achas Mehem. There was such a balagan. Somebody's dam spilled. V'Hei Nefsalis. Now Midikom Neshem Memarin Mashma Divid Gimel Ma'id Dekulam Hayim Aviyim. The center was Mamar, and everybody was in a rush, and that's where the blood spilled. It's mashma time when everybody came together. So again, from here, it would seem from the Yerushalmi that happened Yud Gimel, not Yud Dalet, because you can't bring a Todah on Yud Dalet. So this is a completely different story. The issue was not nicer. The issue was it never even got to that stage. You never finished the avoid, and therefore the behemoth can't be eaten, the challah can't be eaten. This carbon was basically brought to a halt, and you have a big problem here, and it's anyway unusable, so they used it for chametz, to show the people for chametz, and then they burnt it.
Now they have to fish out this person in the crowd and find the colors. It's nice. people.
Well, the Koyanim were responsible. They were the ones who were responsible. Koyanim is risen hein, but they could make mistakes. Fakir, they was risen, so they were in a rush. So.
Now it's even worse. So now you probably in there we only hold the same way. Why one holds is possible, another one says kosher. So what's
Right. So Tosfos says in the beginning that he holds that Rabbi Yanai now retracted from the ksheris. Even though from Rashi you see not, because Rashi tainas it's called ksheris because ibur tzura will only happen at night. Which is why Rashi you have to say that Rabbi Yanai holds you could beat makriv on your dalit.
We're talking about your gimel, so it's kind of
Yes. Okay. Now, so what do we have now? You brought a carbon, you shechted it, everything was good. You had the bread. The bread is kedushas haguf because you shechted it, and then something happened with the blood. There was a mistake, the blood got spilled, and now you're stuck, and this whole carbon was not completed, and basically you can't eat anything, and ultimately you have to wait and burn it, so we burnt it now earlier, Erev Pesach. Says the Gemarah, come on. This means that the shchita itself is enough to sanctify it with kedushas haguf. You don't have to wait for the blood to sanctify it with kedushas haguf, because you have to wait for the blood, then you could redeem it. You could still redeem it, right? So you have to say that this man holds that the shchita itself makes it holy even before the zrika, even though it doesn't let you eat it. He says, Ki Rabbi, this is the view of Rabbi. Amar Rabbi, Shnei dvarim hamatirin mailin ze beloiza. The two things that allow a carbon to be eaten, mailin, they elevate it to kedushas haguf, one without the other. In other words, even though you need shchita and zrika to allow you to eat it, but Rebbe says one, even without the other, elevates it to kedushas haguf. To be able to eat it, you need both. But for it to become sanctified, you need one. And that's the problem here, because it got sanctified with kedushas haguf after the shchita, but you can't eat it, so you're stuck. You can't redeem it, you can't eat it, so you burn it. Shnei dvarim hamatirin mailin ze beloize. The Tanya, we have a brayse. Kifsei atzeres. On Shavuos, they used to bring 2 lambs, 2 sheep, with 2 chalos of chametz. This was the only other carbon that was chametz. Shavuos shtei halechem, together with 2 lambs. They would lift them up together, the 2 lambs with the 2 pieces of bread. They would sacrifice the sheep for a carbon shlomim, and by the way, this is the only communal carbon shlomim in the Beis HaMikdash. All the other karbanos sibur were usually oilos or chatos, like the Musafim, Shabbos, Rish Chodesh, Yom Tov, Rosh Hashanah, Pesach. The only carbon sibur that was shlomim was the Shavuos dike 2 lambs, and they would offer the sheep, slaughter it, sprinkle the blood, and then the Koyanim can eat the bread, the 2 pieces of bread, the shtei alechem, and the sheep on Shavuos. This was every year. This is called Kivsei Atzeres, the sheep of Shavuos. Ein mekatchenes halechem ele b'shchita. The way the lechem becomes holy with kedushas haguf is only after the shchita. Just like by the carbon Todah, the bread becomes holy through the behemoth shchita. By Kivsei Atzeres also, it sanctifies the bread that comes with the lambs, and it becomes kedushas haguf only after the shchita, just like by the carbon Todah. In other words, when you lift it up with the sheep, it's still not kedushas haguf. Only after you slaughter the lambs. Till you slaughter the lambs, the shtei alechem is only kedushas mama and kedushas damim, which means you could redeem it. It belongs to hektish, but it's only monetary value. It's not essential sacred value. Great. Ketzad, what does this mean? Says Rabbi, shchaton lishmon. It sounds confusing, but it's not. I'll explain. Shchaton lishmon. The Koyanim, or anybody, slaughtered these lambs lishmon. Lishmon means for the sake of shalmei tzibur. Their kavana was, we want this to be the carbon shlamim for the community on Shavuos. V'zarak dama lishmon. And then you sprinkle the blood with the same intention. Kidesh halechem. The lechem is now holy. When we do the avodah of a carbon, we slaughter it, we accept the blood in a receptacle, we bring it to the mizbeach, we sprinkle it. We have to have in mind that we're doing it for that carbon. I bring a carbon oila for an oila, shlamim for a shlamim. I'm bringing these 2 sheep. Why? For the shalmei tzibur. What happens if I offer an oila? I'm a kohen. I sprinkle your oila, I put it on the mizbeach, and I'm thinking it's a carbon shlamim or another carbon, right? In most cases, the carbon is kosher, which means you could do whatever you have to do, but the owner did not fulfill his obligation. The carbon works, but the person didn't fulfill his obligation. Okay. You get what I'm saying? In most cases, if you change your mind, you say, I'm bringing it for another carbon, you could still do what you have to do. You're shechting the sheep, and instead of thinking shlamim, you think oila, you could still continue doing it and finish. It doesn't become puzzle. But whoever had to bring this carbon has to bring another one. In this case, though, you did it lishma. You shechted it lishma. You did zrika lishma. Kiddush halechem, the bread becomes holy. Shchatan shalai lishman. What if the Kayan slaughters this lamb, or the Yisrael slaughters the lamb on Shavuos shalai lishman? He thinks that this is a carbon oila. Okay? V'zarak daman shalai lishman. Like kiddush halechem. The lechem doesn't become holy. Why? Because for the lechem to be holy, you need the shalmei tzibur of Shavuos. But you had in mind that it's a carbon oila. Carbon oila doesn't have bread. So the lechem never became holy through the shchita. Very interesting. The shchita works. The kevis is kosher. You can sprinkle the blood. But it became a carbon oila. So it didn't sanctify the bread because your machshava changed it. So the lechem didn't become kadosh. So it remains kedushas mammon, not kedushas aguf. Because the kvasim, right, never became kifsei atzeres. They never became lambs of Shavuos. They're stam shlamim. Let's say shalmi nadava. Stam shlamim. So mela, the shchita is not mekadosh the lechem. Right? And even if you sprinkle the blood with the right intention, it's not good. Because the shchita was with the wrong intention. Or the shchita was with the right intention.
If you had in mind a carbon that does have lechem, then because it has Kiddush Sagu.
Only this has shtei alechem. Only this. Todah is a carbon yachid, it's a carbon sibur.
Right, so
No, because Todah is 40 breads. This is 2 breads.
But it's attached with lechem, so would you say Kiddush Sagu?
I don't think so.
Because it's totally different.
Yeah. Shchotan l'shman v'zarak daman shalai l'shman. What if you shechted l'shma and you did the zrika, then kadosh, because the shchita, Rabbi holds the shchita makes it kadosh. So once there was good shchita, if the shchita wasn't good, the zrika was good. Too late. But if the shchita was good, l'shma, so the lechem becomes kadosh, and you can't redeem it anymore. But ve'enoi kadosh. But it's not kadosh in the sense you can't eat it. Because the sprinkling was not l'shem shalmei atzeres. So it's a funny thing.
So it's actually technical.
If you did both l'shma, the lechem is holy and you can eat it. If the shchita was l'shma and the zrika was if the zrika was l'shma and the shchita was shaloi l'shma, so now what happens? The lechem never became kadosh. What happens if the shchita was l'shma, so it became holy? But now the zrika is shaloi l'shma. What makes it edible? The shchita and the zrika. But the zrika wasn't l'shem shalmei atzeres. So now you have a problem. Because if the zrika was not l'shem shalmei atzeres, so this bread never became mutter ba'achila because the sprinkling was for another carbon. So it's true the shchita itself is enough to sanctify the bread with dushas aguf. So you can't take it out of the azara. If it becomes tameh, you can't redeem it. Right? All these halachas. Yeah, but since the sprinkling was shaloi l'shma, we said if the sprinkling was shaloi l'shma, the owner didn't fulfill the obligation. In this case, it's not an individual owner; it's the whole tzibur. So therefore, these lambs are now shalmei nedava. They're not kifsei atzeres. So even though you can eat the meat, because a regular carbon shlamim you can eat, you can eat the meat, but you can't eat the lechem. Because the avoida that's matter the lechem, which is kifsei atzeres, wasn't done because it was zarkan shaloi l'shman. So mele kadosh ve'enei kadosh. Divrei Rabbi. Rabbi Lazar b'Reb Shimon Aimer la'olam einei kadosh halechem at sheyishchet l'shman v'yizrak dam l'shman. There's no kedushas aguf till after the zrika. So therefore, he would hold that you could redeem it because the zrika was shaloi l'shman, so it never became kedushas aguf. But Rabbi holds that the shchita itself makes a kadosh aguf. So Rabbi Yanai holds like Rabbi that the chalois toida became kadosh b'dushas aguf through the shchita, and then the blood was spilled, so you can't redeem it anymore, and you can't eat it, and therefore you're stuck. So you use it for chametz and you burn it. But the Gemarah adds afilu teimer Rebbe Lazar b'Reb Shimon. Really, you could say it follows not only Rebbe but also the second Rebbe Lazar b'Reb Shimon. Why? In this case, by the carbon toida, you took the blood with a keli. You used to shech the animal, take a receptacle, accept the blood. There were 4 avodas: shchita, kabbalah, hailacha, zrika. Shechting, receiving the blood, bringing it to Mizbeach and sprinkling it. You took it in a keli and then it spilled. B'meila v'Rebbe Elazar b'Reb Shimon savalei ka'avuha. Rebbe Elazar was the son of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Rebbe Elazar is the son that buried together in Miran. He holds like his father. His father once said to Amar, Reb Shimon said, Kala oimed lizre kizaruk dami. Something that stands to be sprinkled, to be thrown, it's like we consider it zaruk. Meaning, in many ways, this dam, when you already accepted it, it's oimed lizrek. It's destined to be thrown. So we considered it kizaruk dami. Since it was ready to be thrown and sprinkled on the Mizbeach, so therefore he would hold that the lechem of the Todah became kadosh already b'kedushas haguf, even though at the end the dam wasn't spilled on the Mizbeach b'poyel. But nonetheless, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai holds that once you got the blood in the keli, the halachos that apply to sprinkling of the blood will already apply besides one area. You're not allowed to eat it. That's the only area where you don't say kazaruk dami. So therefore, since in this case he already received the blood, so the challah became holy b'kedushas haguf, so therefore you can't redeem it, so you could burn it for chametz. On the other hand, because they didn't sprinkle the blood b'poyel, you can't eat it. To eat it, you have to have the zrika b'poyel, and therefore you could use these challahs for a signal for chametz. So even a Elazar who holds by the shlomim, by the carbon shlomim, that the lechem only becomes holy after the zrika sadam, that's true, but that doesn't mean that you have to actually have the zrika. It could mean if you have it, the keli in the zrika, if you have the blood in the keli. And Mela in this case, he would also agree with Rabbi Yanai, and you don't have to say Rabbi Yanai only holds like Rabbi. So b'meila, what's the conclusion? That Rabbi Yanai believes that it was lechem that was not noiser. The problem was that the blood was spilled out, even though there was already a shchita. There's kedushas haguf, even according to Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, but you can't eat it because there was no zrika, and therefore you're left stuck with this bread. You can't redeem it. You can't eat it. So what do? You use it as a sign for chametz, and ultimately you're going to burn it.
Why is it called?
Why does he say ksheris like Rashi? Because really you wouldn't have to burn it now till after the night of Ibur Tzura. Right in the morning, you're not mechuyev to burn it. So it's not like noiser, right? That's the pshat according to Rashi. According to Tosfos, he taka retracts from the word ksheris. And the Gemarah finishes. The Gemarah says, another 2 minutes. Tana mishum Rebbe Elazar amru. A Bryce in the name of Rebbe Elazar, he has a third opinion. Ksheris completely different. Ksheris hayu. These chalas were completely kosher. Let me tell you what happened. You'd misunderstood the story. Kolzman shemonachis, as long as the two chalas are there, kol ha'meichel, everybody ate chametz. Nitla achas, man, they took one, toilen. The chametz was in limbo, loy oichlin, v'loy surfin. You don't eat, you don't burn. Mishenitlu shteyen, they took both, his chilu kulin surfin. Everybody started to burn. What's Rebbe Elazar being mechadish? What he's saying is that these chalas were actually edible. It was a regular chalas, you're allowed to eat it. And you know what? They ate it. They ate it. This whole complication doesn't exist. They ate it. Why are you using it for a siman? He says using it as a siman doesn't mean that they burnt the chalas. We understood the whole time that if they kept it as a siman, they kept it till the beginning of the 6th hour, so it had to be burnt. So why are you taking kachim and burning it when you're supposed to eat it? That's what we understood. So we were struggling. Is it nicer? Is it nishbech hadam? We need a justification to burn kachim, right? To destroy kachim. He says, no, they ate it. They ate it. Because he has to hold like Ram Gamliel. Ram Gamliel holds that truma you can eat the 5th hour. Kachim, holy food, you can eat the 5th hour. Rabbi Yehuda holds at the end of 4 hours you can't eat anything. Rabbi Meir holds you can eat everything in the 5th hour. But Ram Gamliel holds that chulin you're not allowed to eat. But truma they gave you an extra hour because they didn't want truma to be destroyed. They gave the kohanim an extra hour. Kachim would be exactly like truma. So Mele he holds like Ram Gamliel. So he says they took away one challah at the end of 4 hours. It's now the 5th hour. So the oilam can't eat it, but this they can eat because it's kachim. So they went and they ate it. The kohanim took it and they ate it. It's on the harabayas. Then they left the second challah, right? And they took away the second challah at the end of the 5th hour. So everyone knows the 5 hours are over and you have to go burn, right? But this they can still eat because it's the end of the 5th hour. They had to do it before the beginning of the 6th hour. That's what happened. That's it. Ksheris mamish. That's what he says. Ksheris.
They didn't have to be burned.
They didn't have to be burned. They were eaten. They were eaten. Obviously, the koyanim you could trust that they're going to eat it before the 6th hour. In other words, they mamish had to chaparain at the end of the 5 hours before.
It's like it was left at the very end.
It was left till 10:59. 10:59 or 10:58, they took it and they ate it, and everybody knew the 6th hour is about to begin, and you have to burn your chametz.
Mamish stuffed it last second.
Yeah, mamish the last second. That's the chiddush of Rebbe Lazar. A gewaltige chiddush, a completely different pshat. In other words, it was a kosher carbon, everything was good, it's good bread, and nothing. They're not destroying kachim here. Now, this explains why they wouldn't do it with regular bread, because you needed the koyanim to be involved. The koyanim had to eat it. If it was regular bread, once the 5th hour comes, according to Rabbi Yehuda and Gamliel, you couldn't eat it anymore. You had to burn it. So they're causing. So there's no purpose in it. Why do that, right? Let people eat chulin. But dafke hektish, you can eat b'shal chamishas, because you can eat b'shal chamishas. So therefore it works. Huh? It's a big chiddush, but that's what Tosfos says. You see, ksheris hayu. He says the last one. Tem achad ksheris hayu amay mashinois and achas isur. V'yeshleimer dahainu krem gamliel damalel truma kol chamish v'lach metoy de kitruma v'hayu noit l'macharayna b'soif chamish. The second piece they wouldn't take betchilas sheish because then they would have to burn it. They took it b'soif chamish. Let's just learn the last lines. Tanya, we learned a brayso. Abba Shaul says, sorry, I have a completely different story for you. Shtei paros hayu chorshes b'hara mishcha. Two cows were plowing on the 14th of Nisan on the Mount of Olives. The Mount of Olives is very elevated. And you would see they would bring 2 big cows to plow the ground, the earth on Hara Mishcha, the Mount of Olives. As long as both are plowing, kolam oichlin, everybody eats chametz. Nitelas achas mehen, they take away one of the cows, toilin. Now the chametz is in limbo. Basically 10 o'clock, no eating, but benefiting. Lo yoichlin, v'lo sarfin, no eating, but no burning. You don't have to burn it. Nitlu shteyin, both cows were taken. Schilu kalam sarfin, everybody begins to burn. So Abba Shaul has a completely different tradition than our Mishnah. There was no lachem, there was no chalas, there was no chametz, it wasn't the harabayis. It was basically the mountain outside of Yerushalayim. Everybody could look up, and they saw their 2 cows. Tosfos asks a very interesting ha'ara. Take a look. Shtei paros hayu chorshes, Yidalad Amud Aleph. B'Yerushalmi diek. Yerushalayim loy makoim shenagu by shaloi lasois malacha. We're going to learn that Erev Pesach in many places there was a minig not to do malacha even in the morning. Wasn't Yerushalayim one of these places? How are they having cows doing malacha? That's malacha. Kiloimar, what the Yerushalmi means is Svaruhu linik sham isur kivichem eskaptzen sham af mi mekaymes shenagu ban isur. Since all Klal Yisrael is gathering to Yerushalayim, even places where they have a minig not to do malacha erev Pesach, doesn't it make sense that in Yerushalayim the Bezdin was makbid not to do malacha because you had so many Jews who came from those places? They didn't want the dafk in Yerushalayim. They have to violate their own minig. So l'chayda for sure in Yerushalayim they didn't do malacha. Umeshani, the Yerushalmi answers, Nirais kecharshes. It doesn't mean that they actually plowed. It means it looks like they were plowing. They were standing in the position in the regions where they would usually be doing the plowing. It doesn't mean charshes plowing. It was just they were brought there as a simon. So they were just hanging around. They were eating their grass. They were doing their pasture. But pasturing. The point is that it was Nirais kecharshes. That's the shita of Abba Shaul.
This is lean.
Lina? The word lina means, right, they stay overnight. Like it says by Yaakov, Vayolen sham kiva hashemesh. Vayolen means genechtigt. You stay overnight is called lina.
Anything that stayed overnight is lean.
Anything that stays overnight and you don't do with it what you had to do with it is called lina, and it becomes puzzle in the morning. For example, I'm being a carbon, right? And I have the meat, the fat that has to go on the mizbeach. But I forget to bring it up on the mizbech, and I leave it on the table over there in the Beis Hamikdash. It comes morning. I'm like, whoops, there's a carbon yesterday. We didn't bring the meat on. It's possible. Possibly, and I can't bring it up on the mizbech anymore. Huh? Burn it. The same is true if it's my carbon todah. I have meat I brought home. Yeah, I fall asleep. I wake up in the morning. The meat is there. It's called pasal belina. Now, if the time that the Torah gave to eat the carbon was only Yom V'Layla, so the next morning it becomes nicer. But a lot of carbonas was Shnei Yomim V'Layla Echad, so I still have another day, so it's not possible Lina. Depends the prescribed time. Did it expire in the morning or not? The bread is a carbon Todah. Carbon Todah is Yom V'Layla. Right, we say every morning, Ha-Todah V'El Nazir, Nechalin L'Chol Machal L'Yom V'Layla. So after the night, it's over. It expires. There is Lina. Lina just means something stays overnight without doing with it what you had to do. It stayed overnight without being eaten, without being burnt, without being consumed. Whatever you had to do wasn't done. It just stayed. What's the status in the morning? So if the prescribed time was Yom V'Layla, it's possible Lina. If I have another day, that's not possible Lina. Now there's some things that become possible Lina, not Mitzad Noiser, like we spoke about Ibur Tzura. When you have, the Bailam becomes Tameh, or the blood gets spilled. This basar is not puzzle, but because the owner can't eat it because he became tamei, or the dam got spilled, so you have to burn the basar, but it's not nice, you have to burn it right away. You have to give it a night. And then it's ibur tzura, and then you burn it in the morning. It's hektish, you can't just burn it. It loses its form. You could burn it. In other words, you have to have a special heter to burn kosher. You can't just burn kosher. If it's nicer, you have to burn it. But this is not nicer. It really was kaddish, and it was on the way to be edible, and it was almost edible. And the basar itself didn't become, the basar became tameh, you burn it. The basar became nicer, you burn it. But the basar didn't. The blood got spilled. It's called pisuloi, not begufoi, but in something else. The psul is not in the basar. So the basar still on its own is tameh, is good. But on the other hand, you can't eat it. So you wait till it changes. And
Rabbi had a problem to say that it was noise, right? You don't leave noise.
So Rabbi Yanai didn't agree with Reb Chanina. Reb Chanina felt it was noiser. And he felt that the Koyanim would just not allow that to happen. It was not a Metzias. Like Tosfos explains, everyone can eat it. Every Zar can eat it, so they wouldn't allow it. So he doesn't believe it's an option.
So one of the options he says that
Another shit in Rishonim is that if he did believe that it was nicer, he wouldn't let them keep it till 6 hours, because it's a mikshel. You would burn it right away. For whatever reason, he did not accept Reb Chanina's explanation of nicer. So he gave a whole different explanation. It's not nicer. In other words, you don't have to burn it in the morning. It wasn't nicer. What happened was, nishpech adam, the blood spilled. So now you have to wait to burn it till Ibur Tzura, which is the next night. You have to wait the night. So if you did it on Yudalit, you'd only have to burn it to... But if you did it on Yudalit, you would have to burn the Tesvav in the morning. So, like Rashi, it seems like it was Yudalit because Rashi says that you didn't have to burn it now till the next day. So it seems like Rabbi Yanai holds that you could be back without. The Tosfos says Taka that it was Yud Gimel, and it was Ibur Tzura. So actually now you have to burn it for much more reasons. Sai nishpech adam, right? It's not noiser, but nishpech adam, and it went through Lina. So it's possible on every level.
so he had to change.
You shechted the carbon. There was nishpech adam, as he puts it. He says that mifsali tvei nishpech adam v'gam nifsalu belina, right? Sign nishpech adam, so you can't eat it anymore. Plus, it went through lina, so now you have to burn it. If you're already saying it went through the night, just say like Reb Chanina that it was nicer, because that he doesn't want to accept. Nishpech adam is not noiser. Nishpech adam simply means a mistake. Noiser means that there was...
Everything was done. And then
Everything was done. It was a mistake. Like he says...
He has to change from Kshaydus to
So Tosfos says that he has to take away the word ksheris. Hashta hada b'mashama ksheris. Because it's not ksheris anymore. Because you have to burn it. Like Rashi, you could still use the word ksheris. Because there's no chiyuv to burn. Noiser is a bigger michshel. Yeah. Noiser is an Isser Karas. Noiser is an Isser Karas.
So it has to be burned, but it has to be burned this morning. So you can still say Kshaydus.
Put it this way. You're allowed to burn it right away. For sure, right? But look in Rashi. Take a look in Rashi. In the Rashi, the word, which Rashi? Kagoin shenish b'chadam, you see kagoin shenish b'chadam, umiyu adayan einon tu'una sreifa. you still don't have to burn it. Utsrichos la'aber tzurasan. You see? So Rashi clearly learns that you dalit in the morning, you still didn't have to burn it. It still needs ibur tzura. And that's where the Tosfos Harash says that from Rashi you have to say that it was Yudalad Nisan. And that's when the blood spilled. Because if it was Yud Gimel Nisan, it would have already been ibur tzurasan, the night of Yudalad Nisan. So according to this, you have to say that Bianai holds that you could shechta Todah on Arba Asar B'Nisan. Either because he holds Mavin, Kachim Lebeis Apsol Nish Geferlich, you do what you got to do. Right? Or he holds maybe they wouldn't allow them to do them all Yud Gimel, so they pushed them off to Yudal. However you explain it, but that's what it looks like Rashi holds. Tosfos doesn't learn that way. Tosfos learns it was Yud Gimel. Why does Rashi have to say this? That what? Einon tu'unas sreif or sichas labet tzarasan. And l'chayda, that's what he means by ksheres. That mitzad lechem itself, you wouldn't have to burn it yet. You could leave it over the night. But since chametz was coming, so they already burnt it earlier, and they already used it for a sign of chametz. You're saying even like Tosfos, you could say you're not mechuyev to burn it right away.
Doesn't have to be ibn tzura, it is the next morning.
But l'chayda, the word ksheira still wouldn't apply, because the zman sreifa came already. Listen, the word ksheris means it's still, you don't have to get rid of it. L'chal's kosher.
Right. This is not, could be ibn tzura, it happens a little later. Ibn tzura doesn't have like that time. It's not like.
So you have ibur tzura literally that the form gets lost. But generally, Chazal said that if it goes through a night, it's nesaber tzura because something happens, even if it doesn't lose its form completely.
Even so, you don't have to burn right away because someone's not going to come to eat it.
It's never meant to eat. It's not like noise.
I'm saying
He's saying that.
Form, so it's not.
It's interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure.
What's it mean at the end of that Rashi? Afilu hachi mezazli and bahu v'yavim.
Oh, so even though you don't have to burn it right away, right? Afilu hachi mezalzelin bahu. They already was mezalzelin it. They cheapened it already. They treated it cheaper. V'yavinu hasam, and they put it on the platform to use as a signal for chametz, even though it shouldn't get burnt now. It's only tomorrow. But since you can't eat it anymore, so it's already useless. If you can eat it, they would never do this because it's kachim. Why are you going to burn it? But since you anyway can't eat it, so even though you don't have to burn it, they already. Zazel means they mistreated it, so to speak. They put it down. They used it for this, and it would get burnt earlier. It would get burnt in the 6th hour, which you have to mitzad chametz, right? But they weren't causing it to become something that's going to be destroyed because it's anyway going to be burnt. Not now. In a regular day, you would wait till tomorrow. But it's anyway not something you can eat or use. So instead of burning it tomorrow, we use it now for chametz as a sign, and then we're going to burn it with the chametz. You understand?
What's it mean in the Tosfos? Reb Chanina, Gufia, Mishane, Hay, Shnuya, Goren, Haysom.
In the Tosfos Ellen, Tosfos is saying that the Yerushalmi has a different gesa where Reb Chanina himself gives this answer of Reb Yana. In Reb Chanina himself, Mishani Hay Shinuya, answers this answer of Reb Yana. In our Gemarah, it's two separate people. Over there, Reb Chanina himself gives this answer. The Goras Hasam in Yerushalmi, it says, Reb Chanina oimer psulos hayom neishoyim emarim lahavi toidoi seyan. He says they were puzzled because they would rush it. You understand?
Yeah. Explains it.
The Goras Hasam.
Yeah.
The Goras Hasam means this is how the Yerushalmi has the text. This is the text. This is how he reads it. Yeah. Doctors?
You would think they would always get sick. They're stuffing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would assume that they always got sick.
Yeah, they were.
No.
What, the Kohanim?
Yeah.
Oh, they had that one room that they could go into. They had a fire going all the time, and they could go in there and get warmed up anytime.
You're asking why the carbon Todah was only a day and a night. If it was a celebratory carbon, it should have continued.
Plus, they're sharing with people.
Yeah, it's a good question. I saw once from the Ishbitzer Rabbi, the Mei HaShiloach. So he says in Parshas Emor that the idea of the carbon Todah is gratitude, not to take life for granted, to realize how vulnerable we are every moment, and every moment has to be cherished. Every day has to be cherished. Usually people take life for granted. When somebody is chas v'shalom ill and they recover, they don't take it for granted. When somebody has been in prison and they come out, they don't take freedom for granted. when somebody traveled through a desert and came out intact, or through the ocean, those days when they would take a sailboat, many people would drown, and you emerged, you don't take anything for granted. You discover your vulnerability. So the Carbon Todah was really a paradigm, an archetype, to be able to teach people not to take life for granted. And he says, and that only lasts for one day. In other words, you have to be thankful for every day. It's not something that continues. The Carbon Todah is
Gratitude needs to be new every day.
gratitude has to be new. Yeah, Moidani lefanech is every day.
That answers the question.
Yeah. In other words, I'm thankful for today. And tomorrow I have to be thankful for tomorrow. And the next day I have to be thankful. It's not just, life goes on, We'll give one thanks at the end of the year. Says that was represented by the Carbon Todah, that it's limited to a day and a night following it. And then the next day, it's not anymore. It's a new Todah, it's a new thanks. Every day we wake up is a new Moida Ani, a new davening. I davened yesterday, what do I have to daven today for? I already thanked Hashem yesterday for my soul. I thanked Him for my eyesight. I thanked Him for my movement. I thanked Him for giving me another day, for all the gifts of life. What do I have to thank Him again? I davened Shachris yesterday. The answer is yesterday's Carbon Todah expired this morning. This morning is a new Todah, a new Mizmah L'Soida, a new dance, a new Simcha. It's a new sense of gratitude. But I just did it yesterday. That was yesterday. Today is a new day. In other words, every day has to be cherished and embraced and thankful. It's a geschmack of art. The Meir Shiloach says this. It's a beautiful art.
What helps to have very lots of
In other words, the vulnerability of life is every day, every hour, every minute. But you can't bring a Carbon Todah every minute, and you can't give the time a minute. No, it's really every minute. It's really every second. The Medrash says, Kol neshama tahalal yudke, halaluka, al kol neshima uneshima. Every breath deserves a Carbon Todah. Every breath. Every time your lungs take in air, inhale and exhale, it's a Carbon Todah. The respiratory system is a miracle every moment. But I can't say the Carbon Todah's time expires after a breath, because they won't be able to do anything. So the Torah gives it the unit of a day. You give it a day, but the point is, a new morning, a new sunrise, a new dawn represents a new entity. Yesterday's Todah expired. And if I may add, I would say the same is true in human relationships. Right? A person says, I already told my wife thank you yesterday. I told my child yesterday that I care about him. Right? I called my mother yesterday. I called my father yesterday. I already did yesterday something good. It expired. Today your wife needs a new thank you.
I ate yesterday too.
Your husband needs a new thank you. Yeah. I ate yesterday. I breathed yesterday. Your spouse needs a new thank you. Moidani. So just like it's true with Hashem, it's true with everybody. It's a very powerful idea. A Todah expires after a day. Very nice. Du hast mir geschickt ab Sikte Nachten? Shame.
Rabbi could remember this and say it in the Hasidic shir tomorrow. It's good words. Everybody needs to hear it.
Okay. You brought it out. I remind you, asked the question, I remembered it. And he says it very briefly, I'm elaborating a little bit, but appreciation is every day. Appreciation is not once a month. Moedim is every day. Moedim anachnu lach. You know, the Avud Raham says, Rabbi, so beautiful, he says, by Chazaras Hashatz, we don't say the brachas ourselves. The Chazan says, and we say Amen. Shemea ka'ina. Even somebody doesn't know how to daven. That's why they did Chazaras Hashatz. He would listen to the Chazan, Shlich Tzibur, and would say Amen, and that's good. He says, why by Moedim suddenly do we do our own Moedim? Moedim de Rabbanan. Why can't we just say, he's saying Moedim. You say Amen and listen to his Moedim. The answer is, when it comes to say thank you, you can't do it through a Shliach. Moedim you don't do through a shliach. You have to thank yourself. You're going to start sending messages, thank you. You do it yourself, not through a shliach. Today I would say you don't say thank you through a text message. Don't use Apple for a shliach. You know what I mean? You don't say thank you through a text message. Just like you don't propose through a text message, right?
I think they are doing that now.
It's pasnash. You show up. You don't do it through a shliach.
To be real.
Ha'ish mekadesh b'ya b'shluchai. But the Gemara says mitzvah b'yosim b'shluchai. A fellow told me some time ago that he broke up his engagement through a text message. He sent a text. You don't do it that way.
Icy.
You meet the person, you speak to them. They spent a lot of time together. You don't just... He says, I'm embarrassed. That's why you have to do it, because you're embarrassed. You have to face up. Same is true in positivity. You say thank you. You have to face up. Moidim. Haidah. Ein adam meis panov b'fnei bal chayvai. Okay, yeah.
I read a story recently about a gadol. I could find the name. I have it at home.
Yeah.
I forget who it is. They made a shidduch in Europe.
Yeah.
The shidduch was towns and towns away. They
Yeah.
did that that time. They never saw the girl. They sent the shidduch.
Yeah, that was the
They got
Seder.
the girl, and they made the shidduch.
Chaim Tzanze, yeah?
I don't think so. And then it was a few months before the chasana. They were going to go a few days before the chasana. They never met the girl.
Yeah.
They went to meet the girl.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.